and we will begin. Welcome to you all. A first order of business is the swearing in of a new trustee, and I have reference here to Scott Amon. And if the acting superintendent president would care to administer the oath, we'll get underway.
Okay,
That would be you, Jack.
that's me. I even have a sign now that says who I am. I got my identity. Come on, Scott, over here. Okay, Scott, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Scott Amon,
I, Scott Ammon,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies,
and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Oh, congratulations, you're now student trustee for the Board of Trustees.
Thank you.
Dr. Haslund, if I may, I spent an hour yesterday getting to know Scott, and I thought it'd be good for the board if Scott just spends a minute or two, just whatever, just saying who he is, so you know who the student trustee is. So, if you, Scott, you want to say, give a little bit about your background or just what your interests are?
All right, so I'm from the Bay Area in Northern California. I came down here in the fall of 2009, not quite sure where I wanted to take my studies, but confident that I wanted to pursue an undergraduate education at the least. So this will be my third year here at Santa Barbara City College, so I've decided to stay for some time. It's my third and final year. I am a political science major. I'm also a tutor for the political science department, active in a lot of the student clubs and organizations that are on campus, and I am looking to transfer to a University of California come next fall.
Wonderful. Any question of Scott that he can answer? Well, welcome, Scott.
Let's hear it for California Public Education. This is
Yay.
great.
May it survive. I neglected to do the roll call and let the record show that Marty Bloom is off in North Carolina trying to duck a hurricane, but she's with us in spirit. Item 2.3, taken out of order, the presentation about the proposal to redistrict. Please come up. This is, well, maybe you could introduce yourself.
Yeah. Okay. What I've been, the board, we voted to contract out with CLCC to work with the firm they're working with other districts to do the redistricting study. And so I invited today Kimmy Shingatani of the Community College League for California Community Colleges, and she'll introduce the redistricting partners who'll be giving the presentation today in terms of the redistricting and what our next steps are. Go ahead, Kimmy.
Thank you very much for having us here tonight. I'm Kimmy Shigatani. I'm the Vice President of the Community College League of California. And with me tonight, I have Paul Mitchell from Redistricting Partners and Elaine Riadica from the League as well. So to begin the presentation, redistricting is the process of drawing district lines. It's done every 10 years after the release of the U.S. Census. And the well-known examples at this point are Congress and the legislature, and particularly the state process that they just underwent and are still looking at. Community colleges with districts and publicly elected boards have to go through the same processes. So do water boards and K-12s, anyone with publicly elected boards. Reapportionment, which is often a term that gets mixed in, is the process of assigning congressional seats to states, which is a different process. And just for a point of clarity, when we talk about the district lines, we're talking about the internal trustee lines from the areas of which you need to reside in, and not the external lines of the district. If you have interest in taking over another district space, that's a completely different conversation that you should talk with your council. The CVRA analysis, the California Voting Rights Act, was passed in 2002, and the analysis that we do under this process is to determine the requirements for districts under that act. The CVRA changed things quite a bit from the Federal Voting Rights Act, which states and areas have been following for the last 50 years or so. Districting could be required of districts that have protected minority groups that are unable to elect a member of their group under the at-large system. And really what that means is that we're looking under the CVRA for a certain percentage of a minority group, Latinos, Asian Americans, and African Americans specifically, that could reach a 50% or greater number within a specific district that would empower them to have the ability to voice their decision in a voting process. So we're looking at, specifically the CVRA targets at-large systems. Districts that are already districted and already elect from those systems aren't impacted by the CVRA, they are only impacted by the Federal Voting Rights Act. And so we're looking at underlying voter patterns to determine if moving to a districted system would empower these subgroups. So we're looking for concentrations of minority subgroups, racially polarized voting, which Paul will go into more detail in a little bit later in the presentation. And then the question of, would going to by district voting empower the subgroups to influence an election? So you may have a group that is 30 or 40%, and so wouldn't be enough to determine an election, but that is considered enough to influence an election, and so that's something that we look for under the analysis as well. These are the current district lines as they stand now. These are the same lines with the cities sort of shaded so you can get a sense of where the city lines are. And then this map shows, with the shading, the Latino population density within the district areas. The darker the color, the higher the density within those areas. So in the overall district, you have a pretty good representation, but it's clearly concentrated in its more specific areas within districts 1 and 3.
So one of the, my name is Paul Mitchell with Redistricting Partners. One of the obvious questions is, well, you're talking about going to districts, but we just see the districts that we have. I'm trying to go back. So you can see that we do have districts, but we have 4 districts, and some of these districts are multi-member districts. What that means is there's more than one member that's elected from that area. And under state law, this is treated as an at-large system. It's treated the same as a district down in Southern California where everybody lives wherever they want and it's the entire district that votes at once. So this is still treated as a system that needs to be reviewed for the purposes of the California Voting Rights Act. Now, when we do redistricting, there's 2 issues that we deal with primarily. One is population equality, and the second is the Voting Rights Act. In terms of population equality, if you were to stay with the existing system with multi-member seats, you would need to adjust your populations so that a district that elects 1 person would have 28,000 people, a district that elects 2 people would have 57,000, and a district that elects 3 people would have 86,000. That's if you maintain the existing structure. And as you can see, using these, the 2 districts that are single district, for 1 and 2, are considerably underpopulated. The districts 3 and 4 are considerably overpopulated. And that means that for each of the 3 trustees in district number 3, it is overpopulated by 20,000 people. So there's significant change that needs to happen even in the old system. Now, when we do redistricting for Congress, we do it exactly to one person. But for local government, we oftentimes allow for up to 5% up or down deviation, just oftentimes because it's the difference between dividing a city or not, or dividing a community of interest or not, or crossing a freeway or not. So for the purposes of this scale, we can think of the single-member districts as having a range of anywhere from up to 30 or down to 27,000. For two-member districts, up to 60, down to 54. For three members, up to 90, down to 82. So that's the population equality piece. In terms of what that means, a 28,000 person district, you can see the relative size of different cities and what it would mean to go to individual districts that were 28,000. So Santa Barbara is an example. It's impossible to say, well, we want to keep Santa Barbara whole in redistricting because Santa Barbara is going to have multiple representatives. The second thing we look at under the Voting Rights Act is the population of ethnicities. Now, there are a few different numbers that'll get thrown around. You'll see somebody talk about population as a total number, and that's the actual number of Latinos, African Americans, or Asians in the population. You'll hear conversation about 18 plus, the over 18 or the voting age population. The most important population count in redistricting is the citizen voting age population. This is the eligible voter population. And so as you look at this district, you'll see that districts, you can see each of the 4 districts. 3 is a multi-member district that is 20% Latino. It's possible that if you did break 3 up into 3 districts, that one of those districts would get to majority Latino. The other 2, district number 2 as an example, is not, I don't think, going to be getting to 50% Latino anytime soon. But when we look at this and we look at the potential need to go to individual districts, we're going to look at, can any of these districts achieve either 50% of one ethnicity or under state law an influence. That means under state law, if a Latino community could influence the outcome of an election, and that's kind of a more fluid term, then you would be required potentially to go to districted elections. That means 7 individual seats. Now, a precursor to this, we don't just want to come in here and say you need to change to 7 individual seats. What we have to do is determine whether or not there's racially polarized voting within the entire community college district. And so there's a number of ways that we do this. First off, we do look at overall board composition and history in board elections, but we don't just look there. We also look at state legislative races, statewide races. We can look at Schwarzenegger versus Bustamante. We can look at Hector De La Torre versus Dave Jones. We even will go back into the 90s and look at things like Prop 187. We'll look at Prop 209 and 227. Now that data, admittedly, is old. However, it is the data that is being used in voting rights analysis for the State Commission. It is the data that's being used in lawsuits. So we have to be responsible and look at that data. To give an idea of what we have here in this district, we do have a Latino percentage of the population that is considerable. When we actually look at percentage of adult citizens, registered voters, and then turnout, you see the Latino population actually dwindling away. When it gets to turnout, Latino turnout in this district is fairly low. That's one of the first things we would look at is kind of overall voting patterns. The second thing we'll do in a Voting Rights Act analysis is what's called an HPA analysis. It's also called an extreme case analysis. We'll actually go into the district. We will hunt for census blocks that are small areas, smaller than a voting precinct. We'll hunt for census blocks that are 80, 90% of one race. And we'll set all those census blocks aside, and we'll analyze election results. Then we'll look at census blocks that are 80% white, and we'll set all those aside and look at election results. And with that information, we're able to determine, okay, well, if you looked at just Latino votes, within a certain margin of error, Latinos were voting for Bustamante. And if you look at just white votes, within a certain margin of error, whites were voting for Schwarzenegger. So you've got this opportunity to disaggregate election results when you have these census blocks that are densely populated with one racial group. This is an example from another district where you can see, I think this might even have a pointer. Oh, sorry. Where you can see the difference between election results, Latinos strongly favoring Hector De La Torre over Dave Jones. You can also see an example for Prop 187, Latinos voting strongly against 187, while whites and Asians were voting for it. This is a key factor in looking at, this is the first thing we look at in terms of actual election result studies. The second thing we'll do is we'll actually look at all the election results, all the census blocks in the district. And we will do what is essentially a regression analysis. And we'll answer the question, as a census block or a precinct gets more Latino, does that vote change? As it gets more Asian, does the vote change? As it gets more white, does the vote change? And I have an example here from another district that shows, as an example on the left, that as a district or as a precinct got more and more and more Latino, all the way up to 100% Latino, the vote for Schwarzenegger went down. In that same geography, in the same city, as you looked at just the white census blocks, the more white that it got, the more it went up. The same thing, it's showing Bustamante Latinos. The more Latino it is, the more support for Bustamante. And Schwarzenegger for Latinos, the more Latino it is, the less votes for Schwarzenegger. So we've got just one real basic example, and we would do this in a number of races to look to see if there's any meaningful results. This is that same area. This is Proposition 209, and you can see overlaid at the same time whites and Latinos voting drastically different on the same ballot measure, looking at all census blocks in the district. So what we end up doing is we look at overarching political cultural issues in the district. We look at trustee elections. We look at individual races through these two statistical measures. And then we answer the question, does it matter? If I go into my hometown of Glendale and I find, 25 Filipinos who are voting differently than the rest of the population, that only matters if the Filipino community is large enough to meet one of these thresholds under state or federal law, that putting them all into the same district would influence an election, or putting them in for federal law guidelines would be 50% of the electorate. So we will, after we determine that there is any racially polarized voting, we would answer the question of, can we draw districts in which that community group would have the opportunity to express their choice better? And that process requires us to draw several versions of potential districts. We would go through a process of looking at other criteria the board might have in terms of wanting to follow city boundaries, wanting to follow school district boundaries, wanting to keep communities of interest together. But we would go through a process and then provide the results of determining whether or not you can create, as an example, a 50% Latino district somewhere. Or if you can create a couple districts where Latinos can be at 35 or 40% and influence the outcome of an election. This is a number of different things we'll be looking at. In terms of the process, after we provided that analysis and after we provided potential new lines, if the district finds that there isn't a need to change the process, which is, we'll be making a presentation in the next couple of weeks to a board that doesn't have any racially polarized voting we found, that doesn't need to change their system. So if we come back and there's no need to change the system, we would suggest some changes to the lines within the existing structure and help you process those with the registrar. If we believed that you did significantly need to change your election system in order to comply with state law, we would work with you, and we're working with the state legislature right now and Assemblyman Marty Block to create some legislation to make it easier for districts to change their process. So we will go back, we will do our analysis, and when we come back, depending on your decision, if there is a decision to go to, by district, individual 7 different seats elections, then we will be able to advise you and get you through that process of that transition. So that's a lot of stuff to dump on you guys. I'm more than happy to take any questions about the data, about the work we do, or about the law.
Questions? Yeah.
Question.
Don't throw things, please.
question I have is that the only thing you're looking at in terms of its impact based on racial representation? That's what the law is based on?
Yeah.
Because several years ago, and I've mentioned this before, that quite frankly, it was based more on one person, one vote. And there were accusations that we were out of whack in that regard.
Honestly, you are out of whack in that regard. Significantly out of whack, and that was the first slide that had the population offsets. You do have to change that no matter what you do.
Okay.
But do you have multi-member districts going forward? That's going to be a decision you'll have to make based on the vulnerability you might have under state law. State law is really pushing districts to go to individual seats.
Right.
But we would, in our process, ensure that we go to population equality within a buffer, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5% either way.
Are you, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Are you also taking into account federal information, et cetera? Because I know that the Department of Justice recently was calling a number of people in this area wanting to know, why there was an out of balance in reference to a Black and Latino representation on the political bodies and agencies in this area.
I haven't been familiar with any Department of Justice actions in this county, but I do know of another county in the state that has had some active Department of Justice looking around at local elections. So we do follow federal law in how we draw the lines. The operative, in redistricting, the operative rule would be Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. North of you have Section 5, counties that have to have federal sign-off on every change they make in an election. But here we're talking about Section 2. So what that essentially, Section 2 says, is that if you have an ethnic group that votes one way, and you have a dominant white or other ethnic group that votes the other way, and you can actually draw a district that's 50% of the affected subgroup, then you have to make sure you draw those districts. So we follow that religiously.
Other question? Yes.
Did I understand you to say that the regression analysis that you'll be doing is local, not statewide?
We will do analysis of statewide results within the locality, only within the boundaries of the district. There have been instances where it has not been conclusive, so we've given, for some framework, done like a county-wide analysis, but I don't think we would need to do that here.
Okay, and second question, is it only two options where you retain our existing approach where we have 1, 3, and 2, I believe, versus one member that's elected in each district? Or is it any combination of that? So you might say, well, I want to have another district that has one member.
What we'll be presenting is the existing versus the individual member districts. My understanding, you'd want to work with your council on this if there was a decision that you guys wanted to go to 2, 2, 2, and 1. That, I believe, would still require a process of you either going to the voters to confirm that change or going through some other process to allow that to happen. We haven't been approached by any districts that have sought to change in that kind of a manner, so it's not something I'm familiar with, but your council would probably be able to advise you on it.
Yeah, Joan?
I think by way of background, when the original districts, the trustee areas were set up, the idea was taking school districts which were neutral, they were politically neutral, so there wasn't any intent to do anything other than just simply put a neutral. And I think at that time, the number of graduates from all the different school districts, because that was the community of interest, who were the students that we're going to be serving, were somewhat equally spread out. So the intent was neutral. And then also, I think the geographical spread was also something important that they wanted to preserve. So even though we were voted on at large, we wanted to make sure that we didn't have people concentrated just simply in the city where there would have been more interest, but this way it did require. So I think just the history of why we are the way we are, which worked for a number of years, wasn't through any political games playing. It was really intended to be neutral. And the question that's intriguing is, what would be community of interest for us as a community college district? I mean, one of them would be high school graduates, because obviously we're appealing to high school graduates. So, and I'm just curious, what have other districts looked at for, besides the racial ethnic allocations, what would make us look at particular, keeping certain community of interest together, other than just purely the neutral school district lines, which take a lot of the politics out of
Yeah.
drawing these lines.
Well, what's interesting is this is an issue in local government all over the state. Water districts oftentimes are formed by 3 cities deciding we're going to band together, and each city gets 2 board members. And then after 50 years, 2 cities have quadrupled in size and one hasn't, and they're out of whack in violation of federal law. Not because they created the policy with any discriminatory effect, but they had outgrown the policy. A lot of community colleges use the underlying school districts to create their districts, and we're seeing a lot of that. We're not in a unique situation here. We're working with, I think, 15 community colleges right now around the state, and I'd say at least a third of them are currently following something that shadows or exactly follows the school district lines. What we have a responsibility to do is to take the first and second criteria that are most important under federal law, the population equality and the Voting Rights Act, and then use whatever criteria is chosen by the board as a third, fourth, or fifth criteria. Some of the criteria that could be used would be keeping cities whole. A criteria that could be used would be following school district lines as much as possible. There could be a criteria in this community of if we had to make a choice that there's a coastal community of interest and there's a little bit more inland community of interest. You could have communities of interest around smaller ethnic groups. If there was a particular Asian community somewhere that doesn't meet the threshold under state or federal law, you could still determine that, well, there's this Filipino community, we really want to preserve it, or there's this Armenian community and we really want to preserve it. So these can be used as additional criteria kind of after you've made sure that you are equalizing population and following the Voting Rights Act.
Now, would we put that criteria, give that criteria to you? We would discuss what we'd also like to have looked at, or is that?
Yeah, Kimmy can talk a little bit about the timeline, the process going forward, but yes, your input verbally or in this meeting or through your staff as to what are kind of the rank criteria for you is important for me and for my staff as we come forward with options. What we will be doing, and Kimmy will get into this, is providing, I believe right now we'll be providing 3 different options that will comply with law and try to balance some of these criteria. I think you want to.
I'd just like to add, I think age disparity is probably unique in our district. We have probably a higher number of retired people, and we probably also have a higher number of students being an educational community.
And we have that in our database.
Okay.
We can use that.
So one of the pieces that we sort of glazed over, but I think probably deserves a little bit of a closer look, is the timeline and the process. And so really ideally, we would get from you any feedback you have around specific communities of interest, or if there's a desire to keep school districts or cities whole in certain areas, things like that. One of the things that we didn't cover in this presentation is that it is under law, it is incumbency protection and the stability of boards is a criteria that's important. And so when you give us your feedback, I think the more honest the feedback we get, then the easier it is for us to draw the lines. Ideally speaking, we would receive your feedback in the next week or so, and then we would come back to the board, I think in October is the timeline at this point, with 3 map options. We found in some districts that we're doing up to 5 map options depending on the situation of the district, if they're moving to, if we think that it would be advisable for them to move towards individual districts, so sometimes we'll have more than 3 map options. At that point, we strongly recommend that the map options, that the board leave the map options open for public comment for at least 30 days. There is nothing in statute, there is no law that requires a public opinion piece. However, we do feel that, typically speaking with the community college districts, being as transparent as possible and getting that public comment is really important. So we recommend a 30-day public comment period, which can be noticed at your board meetings or however the district typically publicly notices things for public comment. We would come back in November. The board would then take action. And the board really would need to decide on 2 issues. One is the map option that the board, and that the community has given us feedback on. And the second is whether to go to individual districts or remain within an at-large system. Those would require board resolutions, and then we would work with the county registrar to file whatever necessary paperwork. And then if the board decides to change election systems, hopefully at that point, AB 684, which Paul had mentioned earlier, which is under Marty Block, will be passed through the Senate, and then we'll be able to take that change of election systems to the Board of Governors. If you were to typically do a change in your election process, you would take it to the voters, and the voters would decide. If you're doing so under CVRA requirements, you would need to continually take it to the voters until it passes, if the district is seen to require a change in process because of CVRA issues. So what AB 684 does is it provides the Board of Governors the power to waive that public election process and allow the district to change to a districted system, if that's the district's choice, without taking it to the voters, and thereby you're not incurring the costs of an additional election.
Could you go over that again? My understanding, if there's a finding that there's CVRA violations, it keeps going before the voters until it passes?
If the reason that you're taking it, if the reason that you're changing your election system is because of that.
And who makes that determination? Is
the board and the legal legal
Okay.
counsel. And so it requires you to continually take it to the voters until it passes.
even though they reject it?
Yes. Hence the legislation.
Okay.
To take it to the Board of Governors. There is provision in the Ed Code that would allow you to take it through the Department of Education, through this County Board of Education would take it to the State Board. It's a little questionable as to whether or not community colleges taking it to the Board of Education it seems a little more streamlined to take it through the Board of Governors. That statute was put in place prior to the creation of the Board of Governors, so it's a little confusing.
So it would show up as a ballot measure to change the districts,
If you took it to the voters.
if it wasn't a voting rights, California voting rights violation, it would still go to the voters to change at,
No, so the option is that if AB 684 passes, which is effectively legislation to allow the districts to take a change in election process to the Board of Governors, the Board of Governors then waives the need to take it to the public
we'll
election
keep our
process.
eye on that.
Yeah.
One of the more ironic things under CVRA, I'm sorry, is that there's a city recently that had an election under CVRA to try to change their city to district elections. They had an election, it was a very racially polarized vote. And as a result, it just gave more evidence to someone to come in and point out that they have racially polarized elections and then force them again to go under and to sue them. And the way the CVRA was written, it was written so that the plaintiff's attorneys, the minute the case is taken on, the plaintiff's attorneys have fully recoverable costs. So there have been situations of attorneys on the plaintiff's side recovering $1 million because they engaged in a lawsuit like this. And speaking as somebody who's been doing a lot of redistricting this year, I get calls regularly from attorneys that are looking for people to help go in and start do lawsuits. So not doing those, I'm trying to be on the good side.
There were two other questions, maybe three.
Yeah.
Jack, did you want to?
Well, go ahead, whoever was ahead of me.
Okay. Luis and...
I was just wondering where AB 684 stands right now in the pipeline.
It's in the Senate with an urgency clause attached to it, so we're hoping it will get past this session.
And Marcia?
My question on AB 684 is just, is it set up as an option, or is it set up as the only route for a community college?
It's set up as an option. Grossmont Cuyamaca had originally gone to Marty Block, and the bill originally was to allow districts to move to a top 2-tier primary system. So it's an option within the bill. So
Okay,
Jack?
and so you wouldn't need any feedback from the board by next Friday or sooner? I'm trying to think, when,
for initial feedback.
for initial feedback. And that's factors to take into account when you do your analysis.
Mhm.
And then you come back in for the October board and you present the various options that you've come up with. Listen to feedback, publicly noticed. And then at that point, you go back and with the option that's desired and you draw the map. Is that what you do? I'm trying to think what happens after October.
So at the October board meeting, we would come with several map options. And at that point, the board, if they choose to leave it open for public comment, can do so for as long as they wish. We recommend typically about 30 days. We can provide an email address so that folks who don't have a chance to come in at the meeting or who need time to look at the maps can provide us with additional public comment. That's the route most districts that we're working with are going. And then we would come back to the November board meeting, at which point then the board would need to finalize the map option and make some decision or get additional consultation on whether or not to change election processes.
And when I discussed the timeline with you, the goal was to have a decision, by the board in November, so it gives you enough time to do the proper filings.
Most counties have a November filing date that they'd like the information by. The only hard and fast date is that in Ed Code, March of 2012, if districts have not rebalanced or redrawn lines and need to do so, it gives your county the ability to come in and draw them for you.
Any other questions?
Just one last point of clarification. I think what we decided, I don't have it written in front of me, but was you'd be coming to the September 22nd regularly scheduled board meeting with the initial, options. Then you come back in October.
We can do
again.
that too.
Okay, so if you have, because that'd be good to try to expedite the process.
Sure.
Gives us, gives the board more time to provide input. Okay, so we'll make those arrangements if you're ready.
Yeah.
So you have to let me know.
Yeah, we'll have map options by then.
Okay, so we'll work on the September 22nd board meeting to come back. It gives us proper time.
Yeah, I have just a mechanics question. You've asked for feedback from us. How do you get that? How do we send it to you?
Well, you can either send it through your staff, you can say it right now, you can email us. We're very accessible, and we've been working a lot with the district staff to make sure that there's good communication between both me and Kimmy on arranging these meetings and also on the technical side. We're more than happy to take feedback from board members.
Part of what we thought today, but I'm not sure if there's time, was to get some initial feedback or, sensitive things, history or sensitivities that they can take into account early on. Or you can send them to me and I can correlate them, forward them unedited. I'll just, I'm just a communication link at that point. And for example, when Trustee Livingston gave the history, that was very valuable. That's information, what kinds of factors that might be unique to our district that they should know about in selecting which variables they should look at. It goes in the regression equation. In essence, what criteria?
Yeah. I mean, I would prefer a little time to think through this, and also we have an agenda
I know.
rather long.
As you take this back and look at it, I'd just draw your attention to the map real quickly. As you've seen in the presentation, districts 1 and 2, even under a single member system, basically have to double in size. District number 1 would probably have to gobble up district number 2, and district number 2 would have to move across or reappear somewhere else in order to meet just the population equality. So we are looking at some areas with very low population where the change is going to have to be geographically rather large. And if there is somebody, as an example, Montecito might be able to stay whole, move across that way. So you just to think about these things, that's the first most striking thing you're going to see in the new plan is that districts 1 and 2 are probably going to collapse essentially into one district.
You confused me there when you said Montecito might stay whole, because right after saying number 1 will gobble up number 2. We're not going to have districts that jump over another district, are we?
No, I'm saying that when you move the line between 1 and 2, you could probably move it all the way over.
To include Montecito?
Include all in the entirety of Montecito,
Okay.
not have to cut a line through Montecito in order to create population equality.
Okay, I understand.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, Joan?
Those lines, I know, caused a lot of grief to one trustee who had to remodel her home, and she had to find a rental that was just right on the line. That was Joyce Powell. Do we have any capacity to create a bulletin board on our website that people can offer comments or not, just to throw this question out? An interactive one, like a suggestion box?
Yeah, we've done that before, so we can do that. Remember when Paul Bishop gives his presentation. Maybe, Paul, can you address that now, what we can do in terms of having an opportunity for the community to see on a website, the proposed maps, or just provide input, and so we can.
We can do it many different ways, so, if you tell us that that's what you'd like to do, we can come back and show you a couple of ways how we can do it.
Yeah, I think we can arrange to have that at the September 22nd, along with this presentation, the options, and that'd be a timely occasion to say, okay, how do we want to ensure the community has input into what's being discussed at that point, the various options. Unless you wanted it sooner, but.
No, I'm just thinking,
Yeah.
why
I think at that point
the
there'd be enough
opportunity to
specificity
comment.
To comment.
Right, or again, thinking about what are these areas of interest that we haven't thought about. I think with 4 brand-new board members that have a little over 6 months, that incumbency protection is not anything, and then some of us who will be retiring, so that's one I think won't be a factor. But I think the age disparity and the different service areas that we have by age is probably key to our area.
If we combine Area 1 and 2, we would be combining 2 very different areas.
Mm-hmm.
In
And
terms of-
as we talked, as was mentioned by Trustee Croninger, the only other option would be to leap, and we can't do that. Mathematically, we're going to have to move in from both sides and try to achieve population equality as a first criteria. And so even though we'd be bringing together potentially communities that don't share the same community of interest, we would probably be bound to that decision based on trying to get equal population.
Yeah. So equal population trumps various other variables.
It's equal population, Voting Rights Act, and then additional criteria.
Okay. Fair enough. Anybody else? Oh, I'm
One
sorry,
follow-up,
Laura?
in terms of our feedback for the September meeting, it seems to me that it would be helpful to see what your results are on the first 2 criteria to inform our thinking about what other criteria might apply. The other difficulty is that if we all send our comments to Jack, you may get 7 different opinions, and that probably won't help you much, because as a board, we're not conveying one opinion.
It would help more to get 7 opinions than to not get any. Even though there's conflicting opinions, because sometimes I'm able to draw an additional map that addresses one singular concern, and the question is that concern shared by the other board members, and that becomes an issue that's on that side of the dais, not this side. And when we come back, we'll provide 2 things. One is the CVRA analysis with all the charts and math to suggest whether or not you have a need to go to individual districts, and then multiple options. And you're right. When you do see the multiple options, there might be some kind of eye-opening moment where people go, okay, now I know what really matters is this population, or an old town, or a retail area, or something.
So I assume we have a website to consult, or an email address?
Jack has the email address.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
That's right, so if you have questions, I just thought it'd be easier if, again, I'll just be the intermediary, passing on the
Okay.
questions and getting back to everybody. But I'm not in the role of editing or censoring, and basically it's just more efficient that way, where I'm having the common information come to me and I'm communicating with them and back, and this,
Fair enough.
so it has to move like that, so I'll be very responsive in terms of how fast I get back to everybody.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No.
Just another question, I'm still struggling with this community of interest as a community college, which you say that there may be differences between Montecito and Carpinteria, yet they may still send the same number of students to the community college. So I guess I'd like some stronger guidance on qualities that we should be looking as a community college district, and not looking at it necessarily as some other geopolitical entity. When you're talking about inland versus coastal, I just don't think of any community college issues. So should we think of ourselves only as a community college district, or should we be just looking at some sort of population group
I think you should,
As
yeah,
a
I think it's fair to
whole.
think about it both. You should think about it as an area with voters in it that are going to want to express their interests, and where their interests might conflict, creating districts that allows each interest to have their voice is key. And sometimes that is an ethnic, sometimes that is a rural versus urban. But you might also have some district that has a big rural program to do, rural studies, and another district that has a big urban studies program, and they say, well, it's really important for us to have those communities be more important than the K-12 boundaries. But the community of interest is a term of art, and it means different things for different people, but it's best to get as many out on the table and then have the board make a decision as to where they rank certain criteria.
Yeah, the reason for my stating the question that way was to get clear that some criteria are more important than others, and population seems to be the primary criterion. Community of interest, however we define it, is quite secondary. So that's clear. And I think the overall goal of this process is fairness. So thank you very much. We look forward to your return.
Thank you very much.
So, Angie will communicate with you, but September 22nd is a Thursday? Same place? Okay, good. So now you know how to get here and find.
We'll move on to item 3.1F, taken out of order, and that would be Sue. This has to do with certificated administrator recognition of career longevity.
Good afternoon, members of the board. Dr. Friedlander. I actually have a succession of longevity recognitions, and we will start with certificated administrators. I would like at this time, Jack is getting ready already, to invite Keith McClellan to come forward. Twenty-five years of service to the college.
That's right. Well, today we're recognizing Keith McClellan for his 25 years of service. And so that's the wonderful celebratory news. And for Keith, another celebration is he's announced his intent to retire at the end of the fall semester, which went to the board. And he's celebrating, but the rest of us are not celebrating. The other people who aren't celebrating, Keith, for most of his 25 years, has been a commuter from Lompoc to the college every day, sometimes on Saturdays, occasionally on Sundays. So the other people who aren't celebrating are his auto mechanic, the new car sales dealer, and the gas station, and the Starbucks he stopped by at Lompoc every day. So, our loss, their loss in that case. Keith, we were looking at who was the longest serving certificated manager at the college. And I knew Keith and I started at the same time, but I actually started 1 month ahead of him. So, so up until now, I've been senior to Keith. But Keith joined the college in 1986 as the center of our transfer center. And I believe at that point, the transfer center was brand new. So Keith got that going and was very, very successful. And he had lots of achievements during that time period. But one of the ones that had college-wide implications, statewide implications as well as college, is Keith was a leader in developing what is now Project Assist, which students use all the time to look at which courses transfer where and in their planning. So Keith was at the forefront statewide and had City College as a leader in developing that. He also wrote a federal grant and received it with staff that led to the Transfer Achievement Program. And he had many other successes during that 3-year period. It was so successful that he got appointed as Dean of Student Affairs when we had that structure, which and then I got merged into Dean of Educational Programs. But his emphasis has always been in student development. And Keith's background is such where he has, more so than any of us, he's so steeped and current in student development that he was always the voice for that. So when we were talking about whatever issue, Keith would always remind us from that perspective and what that literature was. And that served him, but also me in my role as vice president and executive vice president of deans, and also all the faculty and staff about that important dynamic. And that's really what's helped distinguish us in many ways from other community colleges, is that we've taken that dimension into account in our policies, procedures, and programs going forward. Just to give you a sense of what Keith is responsible for, he's got academic counseling department under him, the transfer center, the career center, student health services and all their programs, personal development curriculum, health and wellness, peer counseling, student success courses, so forth. Student development support services, and that is all the articulation office and program is under him. Veterans Affairs reports to Keith. Degree audit, it's called the DARS system. That is, we rely on that, and Keith is also so strong with his technology skills. He was instrumental in working with our others on that. Document imaging and moving everything to electronic documents, and web support, online support services. So we're delivering more and more of our student services online, and Keith has been a pioneer in that area. Matriculation, Keith chairs the matriculation committee, and how important that is in terms of each of its components: admissions, orientation, assessment, counseling, advisement, follow-up, training, research, and evaluation. He coordinates with them, and pre-register, course prerequisites, which is a huge issue now, enforcing those. Admissions office also reports to Keith, and transcript evaluation I mentioned, and so forth. So it just gives you a sense of the scope of Keith's responsibilities, and each of those areas are thriving. And we got great staff, great managers, and Keith has been a great leader for those areas. I can go on and on about Keith, but I know we want to get out of here before 10 tonight. And so I'm just going to read one comment that a colleague wrote about Keith a number of years ago. Now, Keith McClellan is the most knowledgeable, humane, and effective administrator in the area of counseling and student services I've had ever the pleasure to work with. He possesses a vast knowledge of the process and best practices of presenting ideas using verbal and graphic forms that are fully conceived and easily decoded. And more significant, though, is the controlled passion he brings to the process, and passion he brings to the process. He believes in his work as well as he should, and his desire to make a real difference in the academic and personal lives of students has reshaped the institution and many of our best faculty and staff. So Keith, I just want to thank you for everything, and 25 years, and it's been great working with you as a colleague. So I know you want to say a few things, then I have a certificate and a gift certificate for you.
Ooh, like that.
Yeah.
Jack, after listening all of that, I now know why I'm tired. When I first came to Santa Barbara City College, I was employed as the director of the Transfer Center. There were 17 of these pilot programs throughout the state. And my background was primarily career development in private four-year schools. So I didn't know a lot about the transfer process, but nonetheless, Dr. McDougall and Linda Fairley thought that this would be a good person to come in. And I later found out that no one else on staff wanted the job, but that gave me a great opportunity. My fishing buddy at the time knew nothing about higher education, and that was okay because we just fished. We didn't talk about work. When I told him I was hired as a transfer center director, he says, "What do you know about buses?" My mother, even in the 39 years of my work now, and she's passed away a few years ago, would occasionally say, "Now, what is it you do again?" And so I got this off the internet the other day, and I finally found out what the job description is, Jack. This is great. We can put this, we can save a lot of paper. What does a dean do? Well, the faculty's role is to think for the college. The president's role is to speak for the college. The dean's role is to keep the faculty from speaking and the president from thinking. I want to make just...
The mic is that it sound or not?
Well, Jack, we'll talk later. Martin Luther King has a great quote, and it says, "The quality, not the longevity of one's life is what is important." And so while I've been here 25 years, the score for the quality of my experiences far exceeds that. And there's so many I want to thank you. And I want to just make a few comments. I want to make 3 points. One, because I can, because it's my last shot. But 3, I think they're important points about why my experience at Santa Barbara City College has been very significant, not only for me, but for my family. So what follows barely covers what I want to say. One is I am honored that Jack was the one that recognized what I do. We started together. We were at that time on opposite camps. He was on the academic affairs side, and I was on the student affairs side. They always didn't shake hands well. And what I have to say is about Jack, when he became the executive vice president, when we merged, and I had the opportunity to work with John Romo and others to merge those 2 areas together, that in fact was a vision that I had, that both student affairs and academic affairs should be working as a team and as a partner, not as separate entities. And Jack has helped do that. Jack has not only been a great leader for SBCC and statewide initiatives, but he is one of the most intelligent, hardest working, encouraging, fair, visionary, and influential educational leaders with whom I have had the privilege to serve. And I say these things knowing that I have no promotional opportunities. You are by far the most patient supervisor and administrator with whom I have worked. I know that because I have tested your patience on many occasions. It is possible that over 25 years that I have not always made your life easy or comfortable. While you have not always agreed on a course of action or decision, you have always respected me as a person and as a professional and have always been willing to hear me out. Overall, we share more common values than we have differences of opinion on process, and that is significant. In acknowledging my appreciation for all Jack has done for me, I'm reminded of Jack Nicholson's tribute to Helen Hunt in the movie, As Good as It Gets. "Jack, you make me want to be a better person." There are others that I would attribute that same quality to and that same experience to. I've had 5 administrative assistants over my time here, and that's not bad. 25 years, you average that out, that's pretty good. Mary Moffett, an experience was one of those, and Marie Maskell, Cindy Salazar for a bit, Barbara Smith, who now works back, wonderful person, and now Grace Tweed, all of whom have kept me out of trouble, saved me numerous times from being spared from being discovered and fired, and so I owe you a lot. So thank you. I also know that an institution like this takes a lot of special people to make it happen, and I do want to acknowledge just a few more individuals or groups. One is the work of managers and leaders for whom I serve as their dean. And it's been a privilege to serve in that capacity, and some of them are here today, and I just want you to wave. Check. I have shared over the last several years that I have had the most competent and most cooperative and most effective group of leaders and counseling staff and professional staff that I've ever experienced in my entire career. We as a college are very, very lucky to have these people. And so thank you for coming here today. The other day, the dean at the faculty in-service made acknowledgments, and I've been waiting for that for 25 years. He acknowledged the people who make a difference at this campus. That scrolled the names of every faculty and staff person, and that kept scrolling and scrolling. We as a college have appropriately recognized individuals for their achievements. It's been a common thing, and that's nice. Thank you, Jack, for your comments today. Appreciate you making those to me. But what we also know, those of us who have worked here, that no activity, no progress, no event was ever made by one single individual. Yes, individuals stepped up to serve as a leader, sometimes to take the praise, sometimes to take the blame. But there's nothing that has happened at this college that hasn't happened because collectively, people from the custodial staff, to the ground staff, to the maintenance staff, financial aid office, cashier's office, personnel office, all of those play an integral part. And I'm reminded daily, and that's who I will miss the most when I'm gone, is all these very, very competent people. So thank you all to you. That's almost out. I got a little bit more to say if I could. I'll summarize it this way. An angel, having heard of a community college dean's impending retirement, not impeding. Staying was impeding, impending is retirement. After 25 years of service, suddenly appeared at a dean's meeting and proclaimed to the retiring dean that in return for his unselfish and exemplary behavior, the Lord will reward him with his choice of infinite wealth, or wisdom, or beauty. Without hesitating, the dean selects infinite wisdom. Done, says the angel, and disappears in a cloud of smoke and a bolt of lightning. Now all heads turn toward the dean, who sits surrounded by a faint halo of light, endowed with the gift of infinite wisdom, with a conflicted look of enlightenment on his face. At length, one of his colleagues, anxious to hear words of infinite wisdom, whispers, "Say something." The dean sighs and says, "I should have taken the money." For me, that would not be my value, and I just want to express that this has been an incredible opportunity for me to actually have an opportunity to grow, develop, and serve within institutions whose mission and vision is so consistent with what I believe of for people, for life, for individuals. It's been a powerful opportunity. I have learned so much from the people in this room. And in particular, I want to thank, in the last several years, the dean, the deanery. Those of you who are deanery, wave your hands. Thank you very much for your friendship and your support. Jack, thank you for your leadership. Our mission is captured, I think, appropriately by a quote from Dr. Peter McDougall that is posted at the entrance to the administration building. And it's one that I think exemplifies why I have found joy, where I have found pleasure, where I have been willing to come into work when things were really rotten, when things weren't going as I thought they should be, when there were political fights, when there were budget woes. This quote keeps me coming back, and I hope I'll be able to take it with me even though I won't be at SBCC. Never forget SBCC's potential to provide and fulfill hope for individuals in our community. Hope is a word that's used a lot these days. We do something more than proclaim hope. We provide the opportunity to fulfill and realize that hope. So thank you, board, for your service. Thank you for the opportunity to have people like me serve as a dean. And thank all of you for the chance to work with you. I will miss you all. Thank you.
Okay, next person we're recognizing is Marilyn Spaventa. Marilyn is coming up. So Marilyn is being recognized for 20 years of service at the college. And as I mentioned at the in-service day, and a press release went out, have such confidence in Marilyn that Marilyn is now the acting executive vice president. And the transition has been just so smooth, and she's working extremely well, running educational programs from the EVP perspective. 2 weeks. And so as Dean of Educational, she's been a Dean of Educational Programs since 2001. She's provided leadership as a Dean for School of Modern Languages, the Science Division, the Math Division, International Student Support Programs and Services, Study Abroad, Disabled Students Programs and Services, the Center for Sustainability, Math, Engineering, the MESA program, Science Achievement Engineering Program, and the Faculty Teaching and Learning Seminar. Earlier, prior to that, Marilyn served as a faculty member and the chair of our ESL department, English as a Second Language department. She has an extensive background in ESL teaching, training, and program development, including positions at part-time here, UCSB Extension, Penn State University, Hawaii Pacific College, and outside the U.S. She's also taught or consulted in 5 foreign countries and served as a Peace Corps volunteer in Seoul, Korea in the early 70s. Marilyn's a former chair of the California Community College Council for Staff Development and was a founding member of Los Padres chapter of California Teachers of English as a Second Language association. She's published or contributed to numerous educational publications, a book series, and presented at many regional, local, and national conferences, mainly in her field of expertise, which is language acquisition and ESL. And Marilyn's applied that sound pedagogical knowledge that she acquired in second language training in everything that she does in her role as a dean. And she, what makes Marilyn so special is that she's taken areas, each of her areas is thriving under her leadership. She cares about the faculty, she cares about the students, she cares about the staff. And good ideas, she takes them, translates them to make them practical, she suggests ideas, and they happen. She goes out of her way, she attends events, evenings, Saturdays, Sundays, whatever is an event that faculty are having for students, she's there. Just tirelessly, and she works very hard, but she's so competent and got such a winning personality that conflict is not something that she has to deal with. She avoids it and moves her programs forward, and she's got the total respect of her fellow deans, managers, other administrators, and the faculty, and students who have a contact with her just love her because she goes out of her way for the students. So Marilyn, congratulations on 20 years, and I'm not sure if you want to say a few words.
Just very few.
Yeah. Keith spared you a couple minutes, so.
I know. It's a tough act to follow always. I'll save the big speech for 25 years. As Jack said, I worked in four-year institutions. I worked internationally consulting for a long time. And then when I found Santa Barbara City College, I knew I'd come home to a place that matches my vision of what education should be. And I've been so fortunate to work here, first as a faculty member, then as a dean, then to have this opportunity now for this period of time. And in fact, I still think I'm a dean because I didn't give up my departments during this time. I think it would be too disruptive. And it took them so long to train me. I don't think they could train someone else that quickly for this period of time. And I am still scheduled to teach one unit class in the evening starting in November, and I was thinking I might have to give it up, except I went into the classroom last night and met the students, so I got to do it. And this is clearly the opportunities that I have had are very representative of what this college is for everyone, that you have this opportunity to grow professionally, students grow in their ways, and to experience new opportunities and to always be learning. It's so wonderful. So I thank you all, and I thank Jack, who's been my mentor. The first day I was a dean, someone called me and said, "So what does a dean do?" And I said, "I have no idea yet." And it took a long time of Jack walking me through each process till I really learned the complexity of it all. And I thank him very much for that. And thank you all.
Marilyn needs to work 5 more years before you get a gift certificate.
We now have some classified longevity career increments. I'd like to invite Ryan Alexander to come forward. He will be recognized, he is an ICLC in Multimedia Arts and Technology, and he will be recognized by Jason Walker, Director of Student Tech Support, for 10 years of service to the college.
Mr. President, esteemed board. It's my pleasure and honor to be able to present Ryan Alexander. Much like Keith was saying just a moment ago, he's one of the unsung heroes that's accomplished a lot in the last 10 years while he's been here as a very skilled technician. He originally began in the year 2000 as an intern working for the School of Media Arts, Multimedia. He became a full-time laboratory technician in the year 2001. Between 2001 and 2004, he was a lab technician not only for the film production, but then also the photography department, and was instrumental in helping to originally design those areas for those departments. He is currently an ICLC, an Instructional Computer Lab Coordinator, which in 2004 he was hired to work with Devin Nyman over in the SOMA Labs. Together, they support over 700 machines, supervise 150 tutors who help support almost 550 sections for the School of Media Arts. Helped set up the Entertainment Production Center during the first year as an employee here. Worked on 2 major grant projects, one developing the 3D and game curriculum for serious gaming and virtual job training. And then he has participated either in the production or in supervising staff for 10 multimedia or School of Media Arts showcases. He currently, in his spare time, he's taking classes part-time at CSU Channel Islands as he's working towards a degree in art studio, illustration and motion graphics. Ryan, as you know from our recent evaluation, I consider you being an outstanding employee. You are very hardworking, dedicated, and your judgment is sound. You're always quick to engage when a problem occurs. You pay attention to detail and always invest the time necessary to complete your tasks and projects with precision and accuracy. I commend you on your efforts and greatly appreciate the contributions you've made to this college. Thank you for all your
Well, thank you for having me here. It's been, it doesn't feel like quite 10 years, but I've enjoyed working here for that long, and kind of stopping and recognizing that I've been here for 10 whole years. It helps me appreciate just all the experiences that I've had. So everybody that I've met here and what the last 2 people who've or the other people who've been recognized today, I share their sentiments about meeting so many really great people and working with them here at City College. The numbers of machines are a little, not quite that much. It's actually that drawn over several years, so that's kind of the sum total of all the stuff that I've done. But yeah, so anyway, I really appreciate being recognized today. Thank you.
It's now my pleasure to invite Sharon Stewart to come forward. She's a nursing lab specialist in allied health and nursing. Professor Jane Metchue, Department Chair of Allied Health and Nursing, will help us acknowledge Sharon's 10 years of service to the college.
Let me tell you, it's such a pleasure to introduce Sharon to all of you. Sharon has been a nursing laboratory specialist, part-time for many years and then full-time for 10. Are you wondering about this nursing lab specialist? Well, let me tell you, Sharon is the reason that any one of us who would happen to be a patient in any of the local hospitals or utilize any of the healthcare agencies, there is a patient and the nursing student approaches us to do a procedure. You know, because they're wearing green. We can feel totally confident that that nursing student knows exactly what he or she is doing for that nursing skill, because Sharon is one of the key people in being sure that each and every student that is verified for each and every skill can do it exactly right. So we're very, very fortunate to have Sharon. And there's an added plus. You know, Sharon didn't start out right out of high school into nursing. She first went to Brigham Young University and got a bachelor's degree in health education, worked a number of years for Vista in Louisiana, did some wonderful things there, married Frank, had 2 children, and came to City College in 1990 to do our associate degree in nursing program. So the beauty of this is that we have a person working in the lab with a student body that we have 100 nursing students currently in the ADN program. Many, many of them are reentry or second career students. And it is an absolute wonderful benefit to have a person such as Sharon, who knows perfectly well what it is like to have to come back as a student after years of not having done any of that, and to juggle the intensity of a nursing program plus caring for children, family, work obligations. So she is really able to provide a lot of additional support to our students. Now, having said that, I don't want you to think that Sharon's all sweetness and light. No, she is tough. She has very high standards, and yet in carrying that out, she's always able to convey to the students, a sense of caring and a true sense of the importance of the nursing profession. And if that's not enough, I have to tell you one other thing. In this era of really tough financial crunch, I can't tell you how much we appreciate having Sharon, who plays a special role in the lab of really, she's an absolute wizard at making magically stretch our budget dollars. She will go to all nths to find the lowest price for, you can imagine, our lab is very much like running a hospital or a clinic. We have to have the same kind of medical equipment and medical supplies, and they are pricey. But Sharon is fantastic at being able to find the bottom line and really help us to stretch those dollars. Really, I can't say enough. We are so blessed to have Sharon. So, congratulations.
I was wondering for a while who Jane was talking about. It sounded like such a wonderful person. But I'm very humble. I am very happy and honored to work at Santa Barbara City College and to work with the caliber of colleagues that I have and the students that I work with. Thanks so much.
Will Dan Watkins please come forward? Dan's the Director of Information Technology, Infrastructure, and Systems. And to speak to us about Dan's 10 years of service is Paul Bishop, Vice President of Information Technology.
Thank you. Actually, I was going to tell you that I was the Vice President for Information Technology, but Sue beat me to it. I'm really happy to be here to help us celebrate Dan's 10 years of service to Santa Barbara City College. And I want to just tell you a little bit about how Dan got into this. You know, he was actually hired in 2001 to lead some projects in educational programs. One of the big projects was the portal that we still have today, the pipeline portal. That was Dan's first project. And project number 2 that happened quickly after that was our first learning management system, which at that time was WebCT, and Dan was instrumental in guiding that, both the installation setup and support for that system. In fact, very quickly, his position sort of morphed into the director for student educational systems, and Dan had responsibility for quite a number of applications and the student support for the learning management system. But by some magical event, in 2005, John Romo, late one night, came to Dan and said, "We'd like you to lead the implementation for this new banner system that's going to come in after these many, many years of trying to work with Oracle on the Oracle student system." And Dan, after those successful experiences with both Pipeline and WebCT, thank goodness, led a very successful implementation of our banner system that we're using today. And because of that, because of that success, and actually because he's such a nice guy too, he earned himself a spot forever in IT. And in 2008, took the position of being one of our directors in IT, and we kind of morphed together some areas, and he got all the administrative systems and also the network infrastructure. Now you say, this is a big job, and it is. Most places, that would be 2 people. Dan does it both by himself. But let me tell you a little bit how he got there, too. Dan, Santa Barbara City High School? Santa Barbara High, excuse me. Yeah, I'm not from City. And a student at City College, and then transferred to Antioch, got his bachelor's degree, and then pushed on and got his master's in organizational behavior, and a few years later took that position at City College. So I like to think of Dan as one of our scholar administrators, because not only does he work in IT, but he also has taught. He taught at UCSB Extension, he taught courses in Antioch, and since he started in 2001 here at City College, he's been teaching classes here as well. And not only does he teach classes, but he finds time to take an occasional class. So he gets a perspective both in front of the room and in the back of the room, and also now has lots of experience in supporting it from the IT perspective. Most of what Dan has done is on the internet. In fact, most of what I've already told you was on the internet. And so I want to give you a couple of other things that I found on the internet about Dan quickly. Now, I could tell you about all the things that he does, but most of you know all those things that he does because you work with him day to day. So I'm not going to go through that list. But I just want to, online recommendation from Dan from one of our college people says, Dan has led our campus from a legacy vaporware student system to a new enterprise level system. The migration has gone very well thanks to his leadership. Actually, that was Ken Lee Neufeld that did that, so, and that was off LinkedIn. Then I went to some of his coworkers that said, Dan's been one of the best bosses I've ever had in my career. He genuinely cares about how we're doing, gives us positive feedback, and encourages us to work together as a team. He buys us pizza, too. I met Dan when he first came to the college to do the pipeline implementation, and he seemed the natural choice to be the banner implementation lead. And then I also went to Rate My Professors, because, Dan teaches classes. I thought maybe we'll see what they say on Rate My Professors. Actually, he never got any of those little things that says he's hot, but they were very positive comments. Dan is helpful. I loved his course, and I could work through the materials at my own pace and time. Thanks. I really like this teacher in this course. This class is a great class to take for that extra unit. He's a great teacher, and he's very helpful. Now, on the negative side, Dan's only had 62 tweets. He's only following 34, and he's only had 16 followers. So he's not going to be up there with A-Rod or anybody, in terms of that. But Dan's got a multitude of scholarly presentations at many conventions and meetings, both in the administrative computing side, but also in the online learning side. And I think I want to sum it up by his Google Plus bio that says, husband, father, professor, IT geek, swimmer, reader. I love my family, friends, and job. Life is good. And Dan, we love you too.
I'll just make a quick comment. When I started here at the college in 2001, I had a full head of hair. So, and then also, Keith took my speech. Darn it, Keith. But I truly, again, as he said, as people have said, it's been a team effort. I haven't done any one of those things alone. There's faculty, staff, students, administrators that have helped make those projects successful. I was just lucky enough, as Keith said, to be on projects where I got the praise and not the blame, and I'm still waiting for that other shoe to drop, and but we'll make it through it together. So thank you all for 10 years, and one other thing, I love waking up every morning and appreciating my life, having a positive attitude, and coming to work at Santa Barbara City College every day, and thank you for giving me that opportunity.
And now we're recognizing Linda Winan, Student Program Advisor in Financial Aid for 10 years of service. Brad Hardison, Director of Financial Aid, will talk to us about her career here.
Good evening, members of the board. As Sue said, I'm the Financial Aid Director here at Santa Barbara City College. I've been able to address you a couple times, I think, on some policies. But here we're tonight to recognize Linda Winan in the Financial Aid Office, who's a Student Program Advisor. It's a common title we actually have here at Santa Barbara City Colleges. I don't know how many there are, but there are quite a few. And but in Financial Aid, it's a little bit unique in that Student Program Advisor, like many Student Program Advisors, works directly with students and parents. So it's a very, on your day you come in, you never know what you're going to be doing. You're going to be on phones, you're going to be answering emails, you're going to be reviewing files to determine the verify files for financial aid eligibility. You're going to be working at the front desk. You're going to be dealing with helping to manage student workers and staff. That's all in a day's work. And that's what Linda does, as well as the other 6 student program advisors we have in the financial aid office. She actually joined the office in June 18, 2001 as a student program advisor. And prior to working at SBCC, Linda actually worked in higher education. She worked at a private institution, Cal Lutheran. And she also worked in the Department of Social Services, I think for the County of Ventura, if I remember right. And so she came with a lot of experience, both working with students who had, and people who had difficulties working with the social service system and trying to get assistance with that system and with higher education. I would say that Linda's calm demeanor is definitely appreciated. She has a very calm way of working with students, staff, faculty, whatever she's doing, and it serves her, her interactions well and her interaction with her colleagues. Because they can get very excited in financial aid. When we're talking about money, people can get very excited, when, especially we have to say a lot of times no to people. And so how do you say that in a way that people leave and understand it? But Linda has a way of doing that. Her attendance is impeccable. Linda commutes up from Ventura County every day and has been for the last 10 years. And she is the first one in the office every day. Her dedication to her job, her profession, and SBCC is an example of an excellent employee that we're fortunate to have. I wish I had more of Linda's in my office. On a lighter note, Linda's wonderful about remembering and honoring celebrations of the staff. I myself am not very good at that. So fortunately, I have somebody in the office who is. So makes sure we get the birthday cards signed and out to people, that we bring in some goodies. If the students can have a graduation, we recognize that. If someone's having a baby, we have a baby shower. Linda's always on top of that stuff, which is very important. So I look forward to her continued contributions to Santa Barbara City College. It's been wonderful having her in the financial aid office for the last 10 years, and I look forward to her continued contributions.
Thank you very much, and I want to say thank you to Brad, because he had the faith to hire me in the first place. I've loved working at City College. I'm like Ryan, I can't believe it's been 10 years already. I'm very proud of our staff in the financial aid office and of how we're able to serve the students of City College, to keep them going, to help them with their financial issues. And I'm also have enjoyed many opportunities that Brad's given me over this time to work on some challenging projects. And just being here, I love being at City College. It's just a great place to work, and
I hope to be here a lot longer. Thank you.
Okay, well, what has just transpired just keeps reminding me of what a terrific place this is, and how fortunate we are to have such wonderful people working here. We move on to 1.5, Hearing of Citizens. First to speak is Kathy McCammon with an ACES proposal, and next to speak will be Ethan Shankman.
Good afternoon. I'm Kathy McCammon, and I'm here speaking for ACES, the Association of Continuing Education Students. One of the previous speakers mentioned something about hope. Well, hope springs eternal. ACES is concerned that too much damage has been done to the students, the faculty, the courses, and the donor base of adult ed. The college really needs to restore trust and confidence now. We are asking you for both short-term and longer-term commitments. There is a sense of urgency to what we are asking for because the continuing education program is in a transitional stage without a real long-range plan. The evidence of this transitional stage you will find in your packet at item 5, attachment 5.1. In the immediate future, we're asking for a commitment from you to protect continuing education programs and establish a fair process when change is unavoidable. We're asking for a commitment from you to preserve the Schott and Wake Centers as sites dedicated to chiefly serving continuing education students and programs. These are things you can do today. In the near future, we are asking for a commitment to and the formation of a work group to perform an assessment and evaluation of continuing education in order to develop intermediate and long-range plans. For example, one component would be a financial assessment. The purpose would be to identify income accrued to continuing education over the last 3 years, including state, county, donation, and fee income, and compare these with costs. In other words, what money is there, where does it come from, and where does it go? The product of this component would be a report of financial assessment findings and recommendations regarding criteria for class cancellation, fee structure, options, and possible cost savings. This would help us understand the most burning issue out there, which is whether the conversion of classes to fee-based is necessary. Another component would be an analysis of the continuing education administrative workload. This would begin by having an organizational overview of defined roles and responsibilities. Then there needs to be a compilation of policies from state law, state legislature, state chancellor's office, and past boards of trustees that have been enacted and how they affect continuing education. In other words, who does what and why. The work product should then be able to address in a transparent fashion how things are now done and what improvements are necessary for both the intermediate and long-term future in order to address policy needs, while at the same time addressing the needs of real people. It should include answers to questions like, how does the decision-making process work? Who's responsible for making decisions on classes and financial matters? Who is the advocate for all of continuing education? And of course, if anyone is responsible for lobbying the state to change Title V to allow courses to be financed by a combination of a portion and fee. These are but a few examples of what we have in mind. Of course, we don't say this will be easy, but we do believe it is manageable within the right parameters and will yield positive results. We see this work group as a collaborative effort involving administrators, teachers, staff, and the community. It can provide the transparency we all want by bringing the different information streams together in one place. ACES firmly believes we need this basic information as a basic foundation for a plan that will make continuing education a viable entity moving into the future where decisions are transparent and have a factual rather than an arbitrary basis. There's a crying urgency for this, and this is evidenced by the issue of conversion of classes to fee-based. This is a major transition for the program. Questions are out there. Is this really necessary? What classes? Who makes the decision? These are all out there, but there are no straightforward answers. There really needs to be a rational basis for decisions such as this. There needs to be an open, agreed-upon plan. We need information and a long-range plan that will restore the trust and repair the damage that has been done to a proud, nationally recognized adult education program. We would like to see a discussion of this work group put on the agenda for a board study session, and we will be providing a formal request pursuant to board policy. And I do have some copies here for everyone.
Thank you. Next speaker is Ethan Schenkman.
Good afternoon, Mr. Haslam, President of the Board of Trustees and members of the board. It appears that according to the Social Security Act, disabled students and senior citizens covered under this act are supposed to be waived and exempt from fees in order to benefit from public education. Currently, the campus is imposing a transportation bus pass, health, student representation, and even art fees to meet criteria that is virtually and artificially applied against Social Security beneficiaries. I already discussed matter with Brad Hardison, Director of the Financial Aid, who conveyed to me that he is not familiar with the Social Security Act for which the governor's grant is historically complied. Mr. Hardison suggests that I take it up with the State Commission for Financial Aid, for which life experience has revealed to me that such panels depend on Mr. Hardison's expertise to help direct policy. Nonetheless, this waives dispensation on behalf of the campus to comply to the Social Security Act and need these fees to be waived so not to further interfere with people's education process at the Santa Barbara City College. I appreciate your attention on this matter and have been informed that I would be dropped from courses if I failed to comply with these excessive economics demands. Now, according to this, this is what the Social Security Act says. Section 20742 U.S.C. 407A. The right of any person to any future payment under this title shall not be transferable or assignable at law or in equity, and none of the monies paid or payable or rights existing under this title shall be subject to execution, levy, attachment, garnishment, or other legal process, or to the operation of any bankruptcy or insolvency law. No other provision of law enacted before, on, or after the date of this enactment of this section may be construed to limit, supersede, or otherwise modify the provisions of this section except to the extent it does so by express reference to the section. Nothing in this section shall be construed to prohibit withholding taxes from any benefit under this title if such withholding is done in pursuant to the request made in accordance with Section 3402 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 by the person entitled to such benefit or such person's representative payee. Now, benefits are to be paid to all employees received in employment in any service performed within the United States, Alaska, and Hawaii, except agricultural labor, domestic service and private home, casual labor not in the course of employer's trade or business, officers or members of a crew of a vessel documented under the laws of the United States or any foreign country, employees of the United States government, employees of the state or political subdivision, employees of nonprofit institutions operated exclusively for religious, charitable, scientific, literary, or educational purposes, or for the prevention of cruelty to children or animals, and employees of a carrier as defined under the Railroad Retirement Act of 1935. Now, it seems that not many people have been informed and educated under the guidelines of the Federal Social Security Act, and you have been informally or have been formally notified that you're not in compliance and need to reimburse and enroll students who are elderly and disabled who fall within the Social Security, who are protected under the Social Security Act. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Ferrer. And I think I was remiss. I said 2 minutes verbally or non-verbally, but I think I think I'm used to 40 people speaking. So let's enlarge that to 5 minutes. Mark?
President Friedlander, Professor Hasland, members of the board. Knowing my long-term association with adult education, Dr. Friedlander asked me, among others, to make some recommendations about next steps for continuing education. I canvassed a number of the groups involved in this discussion and put together a list of 11 proposals, 3 of which I request the board to hear today. I'll now read them unless you all scream. 1, establish a continuing education commission or work group made up of representatives from major citizen groups, student organizations, faculty unions, representative bodies, and select administrative staff. 2, establish a process of review for all proposed cuts, conversions at continuing education that involves consultation with all major stakeholders. 3, suspend further cuts, conversions to continuing education courses until the merits and necessity of such cuts, conversions can be evaluated by the newly formed work group. Thank you.
Thank you. We move on to item 1.6, which is the approval of the minutes of July 28th. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. I have just a correction to the minutes.
Okay.
On a motion to adjourn to closed session, they said that I voted no. I don't recall voting that
Didn't
way.
recall that either.
Pardon?
I didn't recall that either.
Do you remember?
Oh, did it? Okay, then I'm corrected. I trust you, okay.
Okay.
That's fine, I stand
So
corrected.
So let's treat this not as a correction necessarily, but something we're going to check on to make sure the record is correct. Yes.
I've got a couple of observations. Obviously, we've gone from the long form to the short form, and there are a couple of troubling things because I don't know who wrote these minutes. You did, okay. Did you get any direction on what to put into them or not? Because I think that becomes a problem, what's put in and what's left out. And again, we'll probably need a future discussion on that. The concerns I have is I don't really see the value in under 1.4, hearing of citizens, dividing people into groups called, some people supported the president and some people spoke in support of the Board of Trustees. There wasn't any action item that anybody would speak in support of or not. So I think just simply a neutral listing of who the public speakers were would be more appropriate rather than trying to editorialize. Thank you. Also, I raised a number of parliamentary inquiries before we started that meeting, and it asked for a ruling from the board on that. And I think when we discuss our own policies, that it's helpful if they end up in the written minutes. So if in the future, if we say, I'd like to have this included in the record, that it becomes part of the written record if there are certain transactions. And I don't know what parliamentary authority there might be for that, but I think just as a good operating principle, if we feel that something is important, and certainly when we start defining our own board procedures or administrative policies, and it was primarily about what is the status of the agenda, who put this on the agenda, what rules control this particular agenda item. If we've made a ruling on it, and the chair did make a ruling on those questions, they should be part where they're accessible and that we can refer back to them so we can be consistent in their application. And I think, again, when we as a board, deal with our primary role, which is policy, and policy is the voice of the board, that rises to the level of something that should be included in our written minutes.
Okay. Other comments? Yes. Marcia?
Minor corrections. At the second page, second line, it's Mr. Price instead of Mr. Craig. And I believe that and at the very last sentence there, Morris Jerkowitz was absent, left at 2 a.m., not p.m.
It was a confusing hour.
Yes.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve the minutes
Second.
as corrected, and the motion has been seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Does that include the amendment of changing the allocation of the public speakers?
Yes, I think
Thank you.
fine. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions, motion's carried. Communications, report by the Academic Senate. Dr. Dean Nevins.
Before I give my report, I wanted to mention something about make a couple of comments. The first one was with regard to the earlier presentation about redistricting. I would advise you guys to look at those R-squared values very carefully. They put things up on the board, and when people see linear regressions, they all freak out because of the mathematics, and some of those R-squared values were very, very small, which means you cannot draw the conclusions that may be made from those things from the plots. So I would just caution you guys to take a look at those carefully. Also, as far as the continuing ed work group goes, the board has discussed this issue already. And I'd like to remind the board that there are many well-functioning processes within the college that can address many of the questions that were raised, and that with regard to professional and academic matters, the Academic Senate is the only voice for faculty, including the continuing ed faculty, excuse me. Okay, now on to my actual formal report. Board President Hasland, members of the board, and Acting Superintendent President Friedlander. New faculty were welcomed to the college through an excellent orientation program run by Dean Ben Partee. I gave a speech discussing the role of the Senate at the college and strongly encouraging participation by our new faculty members. The Senate met for its annual retreat Wednesday, August 17th, where we grappled with some of the issues that will be facing the faculty in the upcoming year. We had an excellent presentation from Dean McClellan. He's finishing very, very strong. And also Mr. Jordan Morris about a tool that the faculty will be able to use to have conversations about what should they do with their TLUs. They can look at their classes, they can look at all kinds of information, and they can frame that conversation with actual data. So it's really nice. It's a great tool. Jack has been instrumental in this tool. It's been really wonderful, and it gives departments the ability to have these conversations about what they're going to do with their programs. And so I really commend everybody involved in this project. It was well received by faculty. And as a matter of fact, even people who are not chairs want access to the tool, so we're going to arrange something. It's really been a big hit. One item I'd like to especially note from the retreat was that many faculty really appreciated the close relationship that we have with the administration, and that by having administrative presence on faculty groups and faculty presence on administrative groups, it has really benefited the college significantly, and that was widely recognized by faculty and appreciated by everybody. So I wanted to point that out specifically. Next, we're proceeding to the second step of our decision-making process, where I received input on additional data to help facilitate those conversations. Also, faculty went out, the senators actually went out and talked to their divisions and departments, and we're trying to get more information to create a final list of information we can provide to departments to allow them to have those conversations. And so that's proceeding very, very well. It has excellent buy-in, and the faculty are very supportive of this process. I'm really happy with what's going on. And Jack, again, has been just so helpful with this process. It's been really great. In-service went very well, and I would like to commend the Faculty Professional Development Committee and the administration for offering a full plate of development activities for those faculty who want to pursue developing their skills in different areas. It was very well received. My impression of what's going on at the college level, every person I've run into has been very excited to be in the classroom. It's really a very positive kind of atmosphere. People are stoked to be back, and I get stoked to be back. Yes, we're in California, those of you watching on the internet. We're like totally stoked to be back now. And so faculty are ready to be engaged not only inside the classroom, but also outside the classroom. They're looking forward to tackling these very difficult issues. People are very engaged in the process, and I've been getting a lot of really positive feedback about what's going to happen in the college and how we're going to grab this stuff and move forward, even though the times are quite difficult. Thank you very much. Any questions? Thanks.
Thank you, Dean. Report by the Associated Students.
President Hasland, President Hasland, members of the board, Acting Superintendent President Jack Friedlander. For the people who have not met me before, my name is Jeffrey Engler, and I am the Santa Barbara City College's ASG president. During last year's election, I made it clear to students that I could not offer them personal fiscal assistance and/or bailout plan. Besides, we have all seen how that has worked out so far. Instead, I promised my constituents that I would provide them with a strong voice for our student body, a voice that would be heard and echoed by thousands. The students and I will give you the utmost respect, and we are asked for it back. Any actions that are on the table and that affects the students, Title V requires that we have the opportunity to speak on that matter and to provide a recommendation to the board. I assure you that this year's Associated Student Government will be an outstanding senate comprised of intelligent and passionate student leaders. Our ears are open and our eyes are wide. Santa Barbara City College is nowhere near being perfect, but damn, it is a pretty great college, and I'm proud to be here. Student government is woven into my current life. Every day I receive emails, have meetings, and talk to students, faculty, and staff about our beautiful college here at SBCC. They inform me on the things they enjoy and love about our college, and I'm quick to reassure them on the fantastic time that I've had here as well. This past weekend, we have had a tremendously successful weekend of welcome that several of our outstanding staff hosted for our out-of-state students. Man, I wish I would have had the chance to participate in those events when I moved here a year ago. It was a lonely first couple of weeks for me, and an opportunity like this would have made my move across the country much more smooth. Moreover, 2 weeks ago, I attended a student trustees workshop in place of our new student trustee, Scott Amon, as Scott was unable to attend. I was briefed and lectured on rules and governing procedures that the Board of Trustees specifically abide by. They showed us how to properly get along with the members of the board and what kind of powers the student trustee possesses. I have passed this information on to Trustee Amon and will make sure he's well briefed for his upcoming responsibilities. Through Trustee Amon's reports and senators attending college-wide committees, the students will have a very close eye on all of the governance that is going on at this college. I am excited for the upcoming school year, and I look forward to facing all of the great challenges that lay ahead of us in our path. In this time of reduced class offerings, large numbers of student crashing classes, and limited transfer opportunities, it is now more than ever that we need to unite in order to progress further. The students have your back, and all I ask is for the same in return. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have a question for Jeff before he? Okay, thank you. Next is a report from classified employees.
Good afternoon, President Hasland, Acting President Freelander, members of the board. Classified staff have been working quite hard these last couple of weeks to get ready for everyone else coming back to school. I want to thank the speakers today that have acknowledged the role, the important role the classified staff have as participants in running the college. Our consultation group met last week. We didn't have a lot of participation because most of our members were working on getting college ready, getting students ready for it. But we did talk about the budget, about the college plan, about the college transition. I'll report more about that later. But one thing I want to point at college plan that I appreciate being in there is the in goal 4, where they're going to upgrade the people admin system, which is the applicant tracking system, to include better tracking for short-term and hourly employees. I think that will really help us to find out where they all are and what they're doing. And so in the future, we may need that information. Also, I attended a couple of events of the in-service for instructors, and I wanted to acknowledge the people that have been working hard on the emergency preparedness plan. There was a topic on that during the in-service, but I wanted to acknowledge Lorenzo Swall. I think I said that right. He is the director of risk management, and Eric Fricke, who's the Director of Security. They've been working really hard to get us on the next step, to get us ready for any emergencies that we might have. You might see some of the new signs up to tell people where to go in case they have to exit their buildings. I've been talking about this for many years, and I really feel now that we're making some good progress. So I really want to thank those two gentlemen particularly, because I know they've been working really hard on it. So that's my report. Any questions? Thanks.
No? Okay. Report from the acting superintendent president.
Okay,
Oh, I'm sorry.
right,
I keep doing that to you.
right.
I apologize. Come on back.
So Joan, what's
Joan.
new?
Good afternoon, President Haslam, Dr. Friedlander, and members of the board. I won't take that long. At the Atkinson Gallery, Milk and Honey, an exhibit of both paintings and sculptures by artist Laura Krifta, opens tomorrow with a reception beginning at 5 p.m. Ms. Krifta also will be teaching in the art department this fall. In terms of major media coverage, continuing education, hosting 4 spring 2011 vocational certificate of completion programs, was covered in the August 3rd Ed Hat. And as JJ mentioned, the college hosted our first weekend of welcome for new incoming students and their families on August 19th and 20th, and that was featured in the August 11th Ed Hat. The start of SBCC's new presidential search was reported in the August 12th Santa Barbara News Press. The acting appointments of Dr. Jack Friedlander and Dean Marilyn Spaventa as part of the college's leadership transition was reported collectively in CASA Magazine, Ed Hat, KCLU Radio, KCOY-TV, KEYT-TV, Newshawk, the Santa Barbara Daily Sound, and the Santa Barbara Independent. The August 19th Express to Success program orientation and luncheon was covered in the August 18th and 22nd Ed Hat and the August 19th and 23rd Newshawk. The SBCC fall semester opening on August 22nd was reported in the August 23rd Santa Barbara News Press. And Dr. Manu Eskandari was interviewed by KEYT-TV on August 22nd regarding the uprising in Libya. And the SBCC Human Presence Learning Environment being named one of the Campus Technology Innovators Awards for 2011 was reported in the August Campus Technology Magazine. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Guess what?
Yes, my turn.
Yeah.
I think Dean captured it well in terms of the attitude and spirit on this campus. Last week was just an extraordinary week for the college, and for me, and that reminded me, why we're here, because of the events we had for students and faculty and staff serving them so well. We had a Monday last week, we had the new faculty orientation, and it's just to get the feedback again from new faculty, full-time and part and temporary contracts, about how welcome they felt here. And some of them contrasted it with the environments where the other colleges, universities from which they've come. And it just was very gratifying to hear that kind of immediate feedback for people who are just getting started. And they were very, very appreciative of the 3 days plus the 2 in-service days that we provide for them. Then we had the launch of the Express to Success program. And that was on Friday morning. We expected 250 of the 300 plus students to show up for the workshop and lunch. We ordered lunch for 250. The students were there a half hour earlier than the 9:30 opening. They were waiting to get in. And we had almost 300 students. And so we were scrambling, how are we going to make sure we serve everybody? I invited Dr. McDougall to go to the 3 workshops they had from 11 to 12 last Friday, because in Peter's role as the chair of the statewide Student Success Task Force, I thought he would like to see some of the recommendations they're talking about actually being implemented at our college. And so Peter gladly accepted. And what we did, they had the workshops for all the students that were in a learning community for math. The separate workshop for the students in a learning community for English skills going into English. Again, it's doing it in one semester, getting a year's worth of work done, and a year's worth of work, 2 or more years done in 1 year. We're getting them through the basic skills, through college level transferable English and transferable level math in 3 semesters at most, but the idea is 1 year. Then the third workshop was for the students who are in the basic skills classes, essential skills classes in English, reading, writing, and math. Each of the rooms were packed, and the faculty were there, the counselors, and the staff that were working with the students. And the idea was to get the students, have them to give them a running start, but also so they could network with each other and their faculty and staff before school started and feel comfortable. It was, just in the interest of time, Peter and I talked about this. During the semester, I'll be extending the opportunities for each of you to observe what I and Peter observed. And I could talk on and on, but unless you see it, it was the best teaching, the best counseling, and how these students have developed such aversion to reading, writing, and math. We asked students, how many students don't like to read and write in basic skills 1? How many students had a negative experience? Almost all of them raised their hand. How many of you actually hate to read and write? I was shocked how many students read their hand. And our faculty, and also in the math learning community, the math phobia was obvious, and that was everybody in the room. And the way they disarmed the students, got them to talk, and actually in that session, with that 1 hour, got them to actually do reading, do writing. In a case of math, they were actually showing that you can do math. And so it was not saying, oh, we believe in you and that stuff. It was actually getting students to believe in themselves through masterful learning techniques. So again, Peter left and I left. We just couldn't say enough about what we observed and how powerful that 1 hour was for each of us. Peter and I went to, we spent 20 minutes at each workshop, and each one we hated to leave. Then Peter, I invited Peter to give a few welcome remarks because I already welcomed the group early in the morning at lunch. But somehow when Peter and I picked up the program, he was listed as the keynote address. Peter goes, what? I go, Peter, I'm sorry. But Peter went ahead, as he does so well, and gave this beautiful, inspiring speech that, the faculty and staff, I know I was inspired, and students and some of the parents who were there commented after just how moved they were and motivated by Peter and his words. And so that was a very, very powerful event. Then we had the weekend of welcome later that afternoon and on Saturday. And I know when I was there on Friday afternoon, everybody was so appreciative. But Ben Partee, Michael Medell provided the leadership for this. On Saturday, they had a barbecue, and Ben was handing out the food. And Ben told me that each parent who was there and students personally thanked him, but they were thanking the college, but Ben was the guy that was handing out the food, not for the barbecue so much as how valuable that experience was. They felt connected. And the workshops they attended on Saturday were not only how to get a good start as a student, but also life management skills, like how to set up a bank account, how to live with a roommate when you never lived before, away. Just things like that we know the students need. But the most important thing was what JJ said, is we realized that a major cause of students not doing well was feeling isolated and depression through alienation and isolation. And if you're living away from home for the first time, we decided as an experiment to give everybody a chance to feel connected, make friends. And all the activities were designed for students to network with each other and for the parents to network with each other. So they formed bonds, which they did. And next year, we're going to blow it up to much larger. We turned away people. And we're already planning for next year, and it's going to be much larger. And again, next year, I'm going to invite the board just to stop by and observe what I observed, because it's all about the students, and it sort of got me connected again. And this keeps me inspired every day. There's so many things we do that we have to do, but sometimes we lose sight of why we're here. And I was just moved, and I know you will be. And I'll make sure that you have experiences. I'll check with the faculty and staff beforehand. And probably invite you as 2s or 3s, or as opposed to coming as a board, because that changes the dynamic of what you're observing. And I don't want to interfere with the teaching and learning process, but I think it'd just be, well, I will follow up on that, because you have to have that connection as well on that. Just in the interest of time, we have one thing that Dean hinted at, but one of the challenges I put out in my in-service presentation, and I'm committed to, and won't be hard to achieve, is really identifying strategies to emerge from the period of sustained austerity that we're in to a stronger college. Any college can cut. We have to cut. But it's how you go about, looking at your practices, your procedures. If you bring that creativity and energy and say, you know what, rather than moan and groan or just cut, that's easy. What's harder to do is say, well, are there different ways, creative ways of staying within our budget, but preserving or even enhancing our effectiveness as a college? And already, the faculty on the credit side, I'm sitting there and they're coming to either me or through Dean, Acting Vice President Spaventa, through the deans themselves, already with creative ideas. Well, maybe we can't have the state funded, but here's a way where we can still serve the audience for which we're serving in a very creative, cost-effective way. Just smart. The whole thing that Dean's leading now with how we prioritize our courses. And the idea is we're going to give students probably more of what they must have and maybe less of what it's nice to have, but in the end doesn't get them where they have to go. Smart. It's smart. And so it's, actually, I think we can provide access to everybody who must have the courses at the same level we're doing now, maybe even better, with fewer resources. And that's the kind of creativity. I don't want to go into specifics. The last thing I'll say in the interest of time was I made the same commitment to continuing education. And there, my goal is how do we maintain and even enhance offering a comprehensive program for lifelong learning, for continuing education, living within our reduced funding and state changes in state parameters. And again, I've been just talking to people, getting input, and just those discussions, I'm walking away, that's more than just rhetoric. They're actually helping me come up with ideas. And so the next step, and I'm going to be turning my attention to it next few weeks, a much higher sense of concentration of hours, is to form that task force at the board. Some members of the board have asked for that I feel is needed to engage everybody in the process, bring people from all the various groups that exist. And I'm very cognizant of what Dean's reminder of what the proper role of the faculty senate, academic senate is, and that will be respected. But it's the idea, it's not a but, that is a given. However, I really do believe it's time to bring everybody together, respecting the existing groups that exist, invite leaders from those groups to really engage in a good feedback conversation, but really a problem solving, moving forward plan. So here's our reality. How can we emerge as a stronger, healthier, continuing education program, just as we're doing at the rest of the college? The other side, we're really one college, and I don't want people to see it as a zero-sum game. We benefit, you lose. We're one college. So that's what I'll be reporting back to the board in terms of what I'll keep everybody posted what I'm doing. But that's my goal to that. So Peter, in the interest of time, that's my brief report.
Thank you, Jack. Are there questions of Jack? Okay. All right. Report from board members. Joan?
Couple items.
Just to follow up, Jack, on the continuing education, I've been carrying around in my binder since April 8th, 2011, a very, very extensive report. I think there was concern about transparency about what are the facts, what are the requirements, what are the regulations, what have we been facing, and yet we haven't had time to discuss, to finish a presentation that started back in April, and it's really key that we all factually get on the same page. I've asked several times to have this discussion continued, so I hope we can move that up to the top of the priority to just start getting a level playing field. We shouldn't be asking the kinds of questions. We've been talking about continuing education now for several years, and we're hearing the same questions. So we've obviously failed in the education process of internally knowing what we're talking about. And one of them is this report that we haven't had the opportunity to ever have a full presentation on. So I will say it again, and it follows what you were saying, that we at least ask Dr. Ariano to complete her presentation on this so we understand once and for all what the state requirements have been and what the demands that have been made on Santa Barbara City College starting in 2005 and we can get to the bottom of at least that part of the discussion, and then we can go forward.
Okay, good. Luis?
Yeah, just a couple of items. Number one, I just wanted to compliment President Friedlander on his comment about moving forward in a smart way. Not only with looking at what we need to do moving forward, et cetera, and making the distinction is what would be nice to have versus what is core and what we are here for. So I commend you on that approach. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, I would like to reiterate my concern about the increasing legal costs we are incurring by retaining 2 legal firms to assist us in our negotiations and in our activities that involve legal counsel. I'm concerned about this because as a board, we have expressed concern about other costs such as court reporters, and I think that we have to set the example in these times of budget concerns and expenses. So I would remind this board again to look at that and to, because I think potentially we have set a dangerous precedent by retaining 2 legal firms. So I would remind us that we need to revisit that and reconsider that decision that we made. The other item that I wanted to bring up is that at one of our last meetings, I talked about the fact that there are a lot of children in this family, and we seem to be paying attention, and we heard it again this evening, to just one child. I would recommend that we hire an outside consultant to evaluate this college campus-wide, because there have been accusations that the college is divided, that there is unhappiness on this campus, et cetera. I would like a college-wide evaluation be done via focus groups, surveys, whatever is necessary to find out what the true state of the college is. So again, I would bring that to this board's attention, that we move in that direction. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other comments from board members? I have just a short item, and it has to do with the mechanics of finding meeting times. We are obviously a very busy group of people, and I note that for our September 8th study session, the 3 of us are going to be gone, and so it seems to me that the September 8th study session should be postponed. And that one possible out for this is to sort of double up, or at least have the option in October to have both October 12th and 13th set aside. We currently have a study session scheduled for October 13th. And if we just keep in mind that there may be a necessity for the October 12th meeting as well, that may solve part of our problem. Yeah.
A concern I would have is that I was assuming we would revisit the budget and the aspects of the budget that we did not yet have all the information on before we vote on it at the end of September.
Yeah.
And maybe we can cover that in fiscal, I don't know. But I was thinking the whole board would review that, I mean, specifically equipment and construction, the program review costs and so forth that we did not yet have.
Well, we can meet. I'm just saying, here's the reality.
And I appreciate your suggestion.
Who are the 3 that are missing, and can we reschedule for a different date?
Well, let's see. Maury will be missing the September 8th. And Joan, I think, is going to be missing the September. Am I correct in that? Okay. And who's the 3rd person who's going to be?
You said Marcia.
Yes, but I'm planning to attend distance from where I am. So.
Oh, by electronic means?
Yeah, electronically, so.
Okay. So.
Can we try and reschedule it the following week? I don't know if that helps.
I don't have any, I mean, we all can't be here 100% of the time, so there wasn't any request on our part to make a
no, no.
change. So if you've got
Absolutely.
2 people instead of 3,
So my sense is you want to continue with the September 8th meeting.
I'd like to. I think we need to meet as a board, even if it's just 5 of us, before approving the budget.
Okay?
6 of us.
Yep.
Sue?
Excuse me, 2 people will be missing September 8th. 1 will be here electronically, only 3 will be here in person.
No,
No.
4.
Four.
4 will be here in person.
1 electronic,
seven.
4 plus 1.
Okay.
And Joan will have had a chance to go over the budget and fiscal, so that we'll get your comments then.
Okay. So what I just said, forget it. I still haven't found a suitable time for a board retreat. I haven't given up entirely, but it's a daunting task because you folks move too fast. And we have a conflicting schedule. So I'm now looking toward the end of October. I think nothing short of that is a time when we could all be together, and the whole point of having a retreat is to all be together. So that's to be continued. I have a request for a short break. I wonder if that would not be, I don't know, civilized. And can we say that we'll be back here by 6:30? Is that fair? Nod if you...
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent
Oh,
Good idea.
Good, all right. Has to do with the adoption of resolution number 4, designation of acting superintendent president as the agent for Santa Barbara Community College District.
This will be your moment.
Is, I guess, what we did before was not enough. You want to do it again, right? Okay, so we have such a resolution. It's attachment 2.1. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Marcia motions, and second? Second. Discussion? Okay, we'll call the roll.
Trustee Hammond?
Aye.
Trustee Carpenter?
Aye.
Trustee Haslam?
Aye.
Trustee Jerkowitz?
Aye.
Trustee Livingston?
Aye.
Trustee Mackert?
Aye.
Trustee Villegas?
Aye.
I think that's pretty close to unanimous.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Jack.
Well, does that mean the buck stops here?
Yeah,
Well-
it means you get to write the buck.
Given the fiscal austerity from which we suffer, it may not quite come to more than 75 cents.
Yeah, I told Scott Hammond, I said, you know, if, one reason why you might want to support this is that if I write a check and sign it, and it bounces, he knows who to go to.
All right, 2.2, discussion of process by which the board will select a new superintendent president. Sue Ehrlich will help us.
Thank you. I'd like to think of this as a continued and continuing discussion. At a study session several weeks ago, we began the conversation about what this might entail, and we focused immediately on getting out a request for proposal, on developing a group of firms, possible consultants, who might help us meet that need. We also discussed the need to get a current job description for the superintendent president. So if I could touch briefly on those 3 items tonight. There are a number of issues that I think will fall into place that center around the results of the request for proposal for consultants to assist us in the process. We have a request for proposal just about ready to go. There are some key issues that I'd like to get some response from you on tonight. Let me explain to you that it requests a written response to a number of very detailed questions. A set of questions deals with the qualifications of the firm, the backgrounds of the people who work there, how long it's been doing this, how many searches it has done, whether there's any litigation against the firms for having done these searches inappropriately, references, asks for materials, sample materials, what have you. It also asks for responses to a series of very specific elements of the process, and it talks about the process of selecting a superintendent president, basically from the very inception to post board superintendent relations training. So it's very, very comprehensive, and it asks for best recommendations about how to deal with each of these processes. I believe that the responses that we get to this will be a very instructive process for us all, and will produce a range of responses that will give the board an opportunity to assess and evaluate not just the firms, but to think about some of the detailed elements of the process. My recommendation would be that, and we're prepared to get this out very soon. One particular question that came up is, does the board, because there has been some discussion about time, but we also don't want shortening the time to sacrifice the quality of the individual selected. By the way, we're specifying and requiring a national search process. The Chancellor's Office requires us to search statewide. Typically with our faculty and educational administrator positions, we do advertise nationwide. But does the board want to try to make a selection of firms from simply the paper material that is submitted? Do you want me to build into the process the possibility that several firms will be selected to come and do a face-to-face presentation to the board at a noticed meeting so that you can make a decision? I'd like some sense of that before I finish this. Yes, Joan?
I'd certainly, if we can evaluate and maybe come up with the top 3 that we evaluate on paper and then have a face-to-face with the top 3. I think it's such an important relationship, and there just has to be a good sense of mutual communication, and sometimes you can't tell that until you've actually talked to the people. So I'd be in favor of, and again, too, could that be done with, if we get 10 proposals, that it can be screened down to a few?
I'm actually, let me jump ahead. We have worked to identify firms. We have a list of about 20, of about 12 to whom we think it's reasonable to send the RFP. We have had firms self-identify and send us material. I consulted with my human resource colleagues around the state and got recommendations and asked them to be candid about whether they had worked well with firms or not. We had interested citizens who provided us with names of firms, and I also did some consulting with colleagues to try to drill down. I don't know that we would get a response from all 12, and actually, I mean, I could send it to more than that. We identified about twice that number of firms. The firms range from firms that really focus on California Community College CEO selection to firms that do a broad base of executive searches, and some of them have national connection. So I think there's a mixture there. I don't know that all of them would give a response to the proposal. I don't know that all of the responses we get would be responsive to the proposal, but I think that if we identified a process for the board to look at the proposal responses that we get and cull it down, yes, it is possible then to invite some of them to come and give a presentation to the board. So I don't see that as difficult. It'll add a little time to the process. May I talk about that for a minute? Realistically, we have a superintendent president until June 30th. I think we also have to be mindful of the fact that we want the best range of choices possible, not necessarily people who don't have jobs and would be happy to go to work next week. There's a kind of hiring season that is involved here, and I think that, and our own faculty hiring process tracks that hiring season. I think if we were to aim for having someone identified, April, perhaps, so, and worked back from that, that we have a reasonable time frame in which to work, and that it would give you time for the board to interview some firms. So if, you know, if that is your desire, that's absolutely fine. Okay?
Other comments? Other questions of Sue? Yeah, Luis?
Yeah, well, I think that I would agree with that, that if we can zero in on a firm, you know, in the next couple of months, you know, and would we want to receive the packets ourselves and whittle the, you know, the responses or the replies to the request for a proposal, go through them and narrow it down, as Trustee Livingston indicated, to personally interview or call 3 or 4 in, whatever we decide to present to us. That might be good, because the hiring season typically is during the spring, correct?
Winter break.
But it seems like-
We would want to be advertising the position, or the consultants we hire would want to be out there advertising the position.
Which I
Sooner than
believe-
that, probably by December at the latest.
Correct. I believe is when we advertise, et cetera. And then because typically CEOs like to come in around June, July, once hired.
That's the,
so
that's
for
the
prep-
natural time to do
for
it.
preparation for
That tends to be
the-
the end of the contract year. Those who are currently engaged and very, very successful and might be persuaded to look with favor upon us would probably want to finish out their contract year. I think we might be able to do a little bit sooner than the end of October, though. I think we can move it up a bit. I would suggest probably 2+ weeks to respond to the request for proposal, and then however the board wants to deal with these proposals, let me know.
Yeah, I was just going to get clarification. Trustee Villegas, were you suggesting the board as a whole whittle down the 12 or less to those that we might want to bring out and interview? I
Yes.
just wasn't clear. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, we would just simply have a public session and have that conversation.
Another model, and I'm not necessarily in favor of it, would be to have a subset of this board whittle down to the chosen 3. You don't like that idea? Okay.
I think this is too important to have a subcommittee.
Well, I
Okay.
guess, you know,
Well,
the value of a subcommittee would be to truly drill down. But, I mean, I'm not wedded to the idea. I'm just saying, let's look at that as one option that we may want to reject. But it does have some advantages.
yeah, my concern would just be that we not wait too long trying to do it ourselves, because I think it's a significant job here, and I had the impression, you didn't say it, but that you might have done some whittling before bringing recommendations to the board.
What we have done is whittled down some firms in terms of whether we send an RFP or not. But I would suggest that once the RFPs are received, that the board should be involved in the decision of selecting.
Okay,
group.
well, my
Okay.
concern would just be that we not wait too long, because it's something we need to get done.
Yeah, I was
Maureen?
going to ask, when do you think you'd like to send out the RFPs, and the sooner the better? And-
Monday?
And if you send them to 12 firms, then we'll know whether all 12 are interested, or maybe only 2 or 3 are interested. And we can make another decision at that time.
So if I give them until about September 19th to respond, then we will know, we can in advance schedule a meeting of the board toward the end of September, where you would all have this information and you would have a public discussion and whittle them down, and then we would invite some finalists to come and do a presentation early October.
So that meeting might be in addition to our September 22nd board
We have the
meeting.
September 22nd board meeting, So you're suggesting that we do this at a separate time or during the same time period? Because I know that when Peter and I were looking at the study session, and everybody, each of the board's times they're away, there's, it gets tough right there until that October 12th, which is too late. What Peter talked about was schedule. We have a board study session on the 13th. To add the 12th the day before as a potential date, but that might be too late to whittle that.
Are you talking about October?
Yeah.
October.
I think that's too late to
too
whittle.
late.
I really do. Let me suggest that you are going to need some time to have some extensive conversation about this, because I'm not sure that these proposals are going to allow you to compare apples to apples. And I think that the proposals are going to probably suggest different kinds of processes, and they're going to trigger a more basic discussion about what kind of a process you want to use. There are a number of options in there. And then I'll say, just once that process is in place, you've selected a firm, you've selected what the process would be, then we can come to you with a proposed budget and we can come to you with a more detailed timeline. But I think that's really the key. So I think October 12th and 13th is too late for the board discussion.
Why do we have to give the firms 3 weeks to make up their mind whether they want to do a search for us? Why don't we give them less time? It's not that complicated. Either they want to work first or they don't.
Okay, I appreciate that. Do you think 2 weeks is too long? Well, the 19th is about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm on vacation until the 19th.
It doesn't take them that long to make up their mind whether they want to.
Okay, but I would say this. I don't want them to rush and give us something canned.
Okay.
We want, ideally, for them to take the time to give a thoughtful response to a very detailed series of questions that we have.
Yeah.
I think the better the quality of what you receive in writing, the easier the process is going to be for you.
But Sue, the way you've described the RFP,
Yes.
there's no way you can respond to that with, with absent thought. I mean, it's going to require some real effort.
Absolutely.
And so I think there are two decisions to be made. One is, does this firm want to participate? And they can tell us that, yes or no. The second question is actually responding to the particulars and telling us how they're going to do what they're proposing to do, and incidentally, how much they're going to charge us for doing it. Would that be right?
I don't know that we need to ask them if they're going to respond. I think we need to get the RFPs out with a date certain when they're due back, and when they're due back, we look at what we've got.
Okay.
Okay?
So what would be your best date? And is the RFP ready to go? You say
It's just
Monday?
about ready to go. I wanted to have this
Okay.
conversation with you.
Marcia,
Go ahead, excuse me.
You want my question really was, is there a value or not to us advertising before we actually put the firm in place, and in order to get the information out early and widely that we will be looking? I recognize
Advertise the position?
the position.
Are you thinking of the Chronicle of Higher Education as the vehicle?
I mean, it
Well,
might be a
here's
minimalist
my
ad,
challenge.
but
Okay, I think you may want the firms to advise you on what kind of an application process you want to use, for example. And you may want them to advise you on some of the advertising. And you also, you get people who apply early and they sit in a pool while we're getting organized, and it tends, I don't think we're going to lose anything by waiting.
okay, I wasn't thinking of an ad that said you can apply. I was thinking more if we had a time frame, we anticipate applications will open date or something like that, so people might be thinking about, am I interested? But if there's not value to it, fine.
It's a hard question to answer. Certainly, if we were going to do that, I would suggest we do something in the Chronicle. I've not ever seen anything like that in the Chronicle before. That doesn't mean it's...
Doesn't mean that
Sure.
Yeah, I think that what you indicated, Sue, might be good. That's exactly what the consultant firm is hired to do. where to advertise, how to advertise, the time frame, et cetera, because that's what we're hiring them to do.
Right, exactly.
Also, part of what we're hiring them to do is do some very targeted recruitment. Their contacts, approaching people who may not even be thinking about applying for this position, who may be persuaded when they hear about the college, successful people who have, maybe not have thought about leaving the position, but might be enticed to submit an application.
Right.
Okay?
Right. Yeah, Joan? Oh, did you? I'm sorry.
Yeah, just mechanics again, working back from September 22nd. If you're gone until the 19th, I mean.
Can we get some meeting going after the 19th? Can you schedule a meeting so that as soon after the 19th as you can agree to meet, we will have the group get together and look at the RFPs?
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but yeah.
Louis,
We do it all the
waiting
time.
for that.
All right, I think we're off to a good start.
I think this may require a special entry in the minutes.
Luis agrees to another meeting.
I think everybody in the state of California knows there's an opening, so that is no secret to anyone. I would encourage all the trustees to attend the statewide meeting in San Jose. I think it's CCLC meeting. You do a lot of networking, and the way we did it the last time is we networked to find out who was the best search team, who was the best person on the search firm, and we kept hearing the same names over and over again. So this is a good way to go out, meet your fellow trustees, find out what was their search process like, what did they learn, what did they wish they'd done differently, who did you use, how did you use them, and then that, I believe, is in November, so by then we would have probably selected someone, but this is the value of participating in the statewide meetings, is the networking that goes on, find out from practical experience who's out there, what's the pool like, and have they had success going to what sort of national candidates are out there as well.
If you have any of that information from earlier and you want to send that to me, I will add them to the list of groups to whom we send requests for proposal. Okay, so there will be an effort to try to get a meeting of the board devoted fairly exclusively to a review of the RFPs and a decision about finalists, with the idea that we would then invite several firms to come and make presentations. So we've got 2 meetings we've got to schedule.
So prior to
Fairly
that
soon.
meeting where
Yes.
we review, I would hope that there's some process by which we have copies of the responses.
You will. You will. Okay, we will make certain that that happens.
And a copy of the RFP when it
Yes,
goes out? That'll
absolutely.
just-
Yes, you'll get that
And then-
also.
Will you send us a list of who you're sending these to?
I will do that. Okay.
Or maybe even the list of everybody who's inquired, in case some of them might be ones that we've had just for information purposes, to find out who has contacted the college.
Okay, I'm not sure I understand your question.
You say
Some
you've
of them
narrowed
are
it
not-
down
some-
to about 12.
Okay, some of the additional names are not people who've contacted the college. We've piggybacked on
Okay.
some other colleges that have done some exhaustive looks at firms that do this sort of thing. If I could go then to the job description. We have collected some job descriptions. Peter's thought about an ad hoc committee strikes me as an effective way to begin that process. If a group could start to look at it and try to craft what they think might be a meaningful job description to bring to the full board, I think that would be a start. That may also be something, once a consultant is selected, that you might want to tweak with a consultant, but I see that as a piece of the process that could also be going on at this point in time.
I'd like some feedback on that idea.
Sounds good.
I think the job description is so generic that it's almost like the least important part, and I don't mean to demean that. It's just that when you look, again, CCLC puts out a wonderful brochure on all of the characteristics one would want in a president, and they're just wonderful, every single one of them. You wouldn't pick one over another, in it. And so the job description will be really just a laundry list of every wonderful quality that you would want in this kind of position. Now, whether you get a response to that or not, I just think it's, I think it's an exercise in generalities, quite frankly.
Lisa?
Sue wanted to speak to.
I believe that you need a job description.
You need
And the one that
one,
we
but-
have, the last one that was ever formally adopted is so old, I can't even remember how old it is. And it is so dated in terms of not recognizing how much the world of education has changed. And I'm not disagreeing with you, Joan, but we need some agreement on what it's going to be. So
Well-
I'm concerned about a process that will produce some agreement.
I think starting with that CCLC booklet, which sets out every single quality you would want, would be a good place to work from.
Would an ad hoc committee, starting with that, plus some sample job descriptions, be a reasonable way to get this process started?
I'd like to say I just differ a little bit from Trustee Livingston's position. I think the job description can be something that will attract the right candidates. And, you know, in my usual cheerleading fashion, I think words have a lot of impact. And SBCC is not our generic city college. You know, we do have some specialty areas here, and I think we need to highlight those and have the job description reflect those things, those characteristics we're looking for that will support what goes on here in Santa Barbara.
Okay, Marcia?
And I would also think that the process of, yes, you start with the leadership qualities that you would be looking for, but you focus also on what are we looking for, and that's a conversation that I think is useful to us. It is important because you're not going to get every quality, and you can focus on what's most important to you and try to convey that in a way that is attractive to candidates too.
Maury, did you have your hand up?
No.
Oh, okay. Luis?
I was just wondering what job description you're talking about, Sue. We used it in 07. Is that the old one you're talking about?
Are you talking about the brochure that we developed for advertising the position?
Right.
That's not the same thing as the formal job description. That's much older. That's why we did the
I
brochure.
thought we had redone it in 07.
Okay. I hear that we need a job description, and the suggestion is made that we form a small panel of us to put it together. Do I have volunteers? 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll defer
four's
to
a
you.
good number.
Okay, so Marcia,
Ad hoc
Luis,
committee, less than a majority of the board?
yeah. It's only 3. I will
Okay.
withdraw. I withdraw
Okay.
in favor of Maury.
Okay.
So Maury, Luis, and Marcia. Thank you very much.
And I appreciate the difference. I didn't quite understand. I thought the job description was what we were going out for, but you're saying it's actually the formal job description that you evaluate a future CEO based upon. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay.
I think the other value, Joan, is that as we begin to identify what we're looking for, it gets fit into a job description, and we are more certain. It's part of our own educational process.
Right, but having been through these, when you see the stack of applicants, you're going to be surprised.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you, Sue. Where are we? We are, okay, on your agenda, there was a mix-up between item 2.3 and 2.4 on this restatement of it, and what we are now at is the 2.4 discussion of how the college will prepare for pending accreditation visit. Jack, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, the board had asked me to follow up with the Accreditation Commission, Barbara Bino, in terms of getting clarity about the site visit. And several members of the board asked, at what point would the board actually receive the actual complaint letters, and could they have an opportunity to respond, in advance of any site visit. I sent you my initial communication, my only communication with Dr. Bino, Barbara Bino, and I sent her an email the other day where we looked at what their own policies were. And on their website, the accreditation policy clearly states that if the complaint appears to be within the scope of the commission, policies, and jurisdiction, and is substantially documented, a copy of the complaint will be forwarded to the institution's chief instructional officer. And so I pointed out that we hadn't received from them that letter of complaint. 2, the commission staff will review the complaint, the response, and evidence submitted by the institution's president, and will determine one of the following. The institution's president in this case is, I think, the commission's president. It says that that the complaint will not be processed further. The complainant will be notified within 10 days that the complaint has sufficient substance to warrant further investigation. The commission may request information of the institution and may visit that institution for purposes of fact-finding. If the commission investigation reveals credible evidence that the institution is not meeting commission standards and policies, the commission may invoke sanctions. But I missed a key point where, oh, here it is. Their policies, a copy of the complaint will be forwarded to the institution's chief executive, who will be asked to respond to the president within 30 days. And so, and the president will send a copy of the complaint and correspondence to the chairperson of the accrediting commission. So I sent her an email and I verbatim gave her that policy. And so when Barbara Bino called me yesterday, which she was scheduled to call me yesterday afternoon, talk about the site visit, she started talking about the scope of the site visit, which was limited to the allegations. And I reminded her of what I said. I sent you this email, and we discussed due process rights in her own policy. And so she said that she'd get back, need to contact their legal counsel and get back to me before the end of the week. Well, within an hour, she got back to me and said, we're going to be sending, we consulted with our internal staff and our legal counsel, and you're correct. So you'll be receiving from us tomorrow, which is like today, which we have received, and I gave it to you, a revised letter basically saying that we have 30 days to submit a response starting today for that. And based on that response, they'll evaluate it, and at that point determine whether a site visit is still necessary or not. And I said, that's fair. And they also talked to their legal counsel about, given the nature of the complaint, what they felt comfortable as a private organization to send to us as a public document, and what they felt might be confidential in terms of, the individuals named, might not have given permission to have it out, as a public document. So what we included in your packet is the policy I just referenced. It's their policy on their internet site. The revised letter I received today, which is basically the same letter, just says you have 30 days to respond. And then the letter of complaint they received with certain sections redacted because of the private, the confidentialities that they didn't discuss with anybody. They just didn't feel comfortable releasing that without anybody's knowing that this letter was submitted in statements and permission, to do so in terms of people who were referenced in terms of their opinions and things like that. So I gave you the redacted, I gave you what you sent me, and that's what we respond to. The next step now is, in my role, will be organizing our response. And what I plan to do is, right away, because the clock is ticking, is ask individuals who are individually allegations referred to provide responses. Where the board as a whole, needs to, I'll ask you to respond to allegations that pertain to that. I'm keeping our response exactly to what the allegations are, because that's all the investigation is going to focus on, no more and no less. And I asked her, you know, the question you asked me to ask her. I said, you know, when we assemble the, you know, our, you know, the responses, does that need to come from the board as a whole, or is that some individual saying, here's, you know, I was alleged, well, the whole board will see the response, but could they have their input where the whole board wasn't available, wouldn't have known, you know, because it was, or she said, no, she goes, it could be, it doesn't have to be, you know, a board-approved document, but it's up to you, but you know, how you organize it. But the response is coming from you representing the institution. So it's something, as we prepare the response, obviously I'm going to be sharing everything with it, the board. And Angie, what's the date, what's 30 days from now? Anyway, we'll give you that date, but we need to schedule a time when, you know, we're going to look at what I've compiled, and so that we all can see it before I send it to, you know, Barbara Bino. And if we schedule an extra meeting to look at the applications that were submitted for the CEO, the superintendent president search, maybe, you know, when you're selecting, I guess you're talking about the job description, you know, the meeting we just talked about after September 22nd, you know, maybe I'll try to aim for that meeting, because that's when everybody's together. And that might, you know, because the clock is ticking, so it's moving quickly, but that's about how fast we have to move in getting our response to them. And so since I just talked to her late yesterday afternoon, and I got the fax revised letter, you know, later this morning, you know, it's basically sitting down tomorrow and mapping out, you know, who needs to, you know, provide input, and you have the letter, and you can, you know, as I call you and write emails to you individually and collectively, you'll have the information that you're responding to, and I'll give you, you know, when I need it by, in order to assemble our response and in time for when we're going to review it. You're going to review it as a board as a whole, and so that's basically where we are in that.
Questions of Jack? Okay. Thank you, Jack, very much. 2.5, presentation on board meetings televised with closed caption. Is Paul still here? Yes, he is.
And this should be fast and light, so. What I was asked to do is just come in and show the board what we've been doing in terms of providing access to the board videos that are being recorded by the crew that's here. Not only are those shown on television, but we also put them on our Board of Trustees YouTube site. And we have a premier account with YouTube, so we can host as much material as we want for as long as we want. So it'll be there a long time unless you say otherwise. And each of the board meetings, after it's been recorded, Tony, within a day or so, sends us a link to the file, the video file that's uploaded to YouTube. At the same time, that same day, I provide that link to an auto captioning company that then creates the auto captioning that I'll show you, and they also give us a full transcript of the recorded session of the meeting. So, and I'll just demo that right now so we can just find my little mouse. Oh, there it is up the top, and it moves really slow, but it'll get there. Almost.
Hendricks, Director of Facilities and Campus Development.
As you can see, the captioning is right at the bottom of the screen. It's actually done by real people, so the accuracy is very high. And if they can't understand, they'll put it like inaudible remarks. You'll see that whenever they can't.
Well, first, let me introduce you to Mike Bishop. Mike is somebody that's one of those unsung
the other thing
heroes
that's new here
who does not
is
step out into
that
the spotlight very often to
If we
receive
go over
such
to the closed
accolades.
caption icon,
So when I
We
received
also
my
now
email
have
from Stella,
translations.
and Mike actually agreed to accept this award, it put a great big smile on my face.
and we
Mike is
can,
one of the more fun people in my department to work with,
scroll
for
down the
sure.
list of translations.
When I was hired, say, 10 years ago, my primary charge was to
I'm not
oversee the
sure
3
how many
supervisors in
languages are here.
facilities. Grounds.
Well, let's just pick Arabic for fun.
I'd like to hear it in Sanskrit.
And then if we come back over and get it going,
Mike and the custodial maintenance
we
supervisor.
can get it in a multitude of,
But Mike
now,
was the one that came to me with
you have to take this
stories.
with a grain of salt.
There
This
were
is
just
actually
interesting
using
stories that I had heard
a
about Mike.
automated
So
system for doing the
rather than
translation. So
coming
the
at it from an
translation
authoritarian
probably
point of
to
view, I thought,
languages
well,
that
I'm
are
gonna
like
get to know
English
Mike and
will
see
be
what
the
this
best.
is all
So,
about.
you know,
And
translation
what I
to
quickly
French
realized
or
is that Mike is an
or
extremely
to
competent and
Spanish
experienced
or
supervisor
to
in the
Italian
grounds
probably
department.
will be
And I
fairly
can always rely on
reasonable
Mike
facsimiles
for
of what's being said in English.
responsiveness,
However,
thoroughness,
I did ask my
and the
wife, who's
oversight of his
Japanese,
staff.
what did the Japanese version say, and
Mike
it was
is
actually
the
pretty
person
humorous.
every morning when I
be-
arrive who's
because
left me a
it
voice
does
message
a-
at 6:30
I
in the
guess
morning
if I-
telling me
let me
exactly
go
the
up there,
state of
I-
the campus. Mike is the person that after we have the storms and the rains and the winds and
Paul,
we
you
all
were
worry
really
that
being rude by,
everything will be in disarray, he and his
Dr.
staff have
Stinson.
arrived at 6 and they put everything back in place and everybody is able to drive on campus and not use their lifeboats and Mike is the person that if I have a contractor that comes to me and has some
Can we turn the
strange
volume
request
down a
about
little on the-
irrigation or something
on the
else, I
plan?
know I can pick up the phone and call him. He's always very reliable. And finally, Mike is the person that I
Thank you.
know will always work cooperatively with all the other groups on campus, primarily
You can't get
groups like
Julie to talk
security
in a
and
foreign language.
custodial to do amazing things like
Yeah.
at the top of the level, the graduation ceremonies and how beautiful they always look. And at the bottom of the scale, removing all the home presentation for
Anyone fluent in Spanish, they can tell us whether that's fairly accurate or not.
What impresses me the most about Mike is his pride in his crew. I think you know Mike.
What's all our Spanish teachers?
His statement that makes the most, his mantra is, it's great.
The other thing that we also have here is that if you open this in another window, let's pick one to open it. Any of these, if we open in a window, it also has an interactive transcript where it'll show you the full text of the transcript and it'll highlight the line as it's being spoken. And it's really good. I'm sure some Angie or anyone that has to do minutes, it's very easy to go through the whole entire transcript and not only hear it being said, but see the typed full text version as well. So it makes it easier to have very good copies of what was said at any of the meetings.
Let him finish. Paul, are you open to a question? Okay, Marcia?
2 questions. Do we have all of the televised meetings up now?
Yes, and in fact, they started, if we come back to,
April 28th.
I think that's just what I want, hang on. This is not the world's most interesting mouse, but the first meeting was the meeting of June 9th. So June 9th, June 28th, August 1st are all closed captioned.
Okay.
And of course, we'll continue unless instructed otherwise.
And then my second question is, where's the link to this on the college website?
It's, if you go to the Board of Trustees and go to the link about videos, it takes you here.
The link when you go to agendas and there's a listen to the video, because in the past when I've tried that, it didn't work for my Mac, but.
It used to take you to the individual video.
Yes.
Now it takes you to this page.
Okay.
And also, and if you notice on the right, it also tells you how many times they've all been viewed. So you can see the meeting of June 9th at 1,533 views, where most of the other meetings were, they were viewed, but not by a huge number of people. There's other features that we haven't turned on, like there's a public comment feature that could be turned on where people could post comments under each of the meetings. That's currently not on, but it could be on at some point.
Paul, is there any difference between PCs and Macs in terms of receiving this?
No.
Okay.
My big concern is indexing to an agenda, a printed agenda. So you say that you can print out a transcript, or it comes up on the screen as a,
Yeah,
as a so you can go find item 2.2.
it's all indexed by time. So
Time?
it has a time code. It's all indexed by time.
So nobody would know where the time was, rather than the
Well,
index.
you know, like here, we can take the timeline and we can just pull it anywhere we want and stop and see where we are in the meeting and move back and forth. But no, there's no index that's tied to, say, to the agenda or anything
I
like
think
that.
that's still one of the most critical features that we need, and what I really enjoyed about the transcripts is if I want to know the discussion on 2.1, I can find it. So what would be a way of embedding index? If we mention it, is there a search feature? If we start saying we're going to go to 2.1?
I'll check that out. Perhaps you can, in the embedded transcript, maybe there's a way to do a quick search to go to keywords. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and then we announce it when we go to that item, that we make sure that there's some sort of verbal
I think the difference, what we're
recognition.
talking about here is that the city uses Granicus, which for, I don't know, 100,000 a year or something, I don't know, something a little more take. You can link it to the actual agenda and jump to locations. This one is kind of free, so we're not going to have the same functionality, but I think we might be able to tweak it to get some of that, what you're asking.
I hope that becomes a priority, because I would say for utility, I mean, it's one thing to look at it because it's entertaining, but I think when we really need it, we need to go back and review specific items. What was the discussion? What was actually said?
Yeah, sorry. Liz, you want to turn that?
Just turn it off, yeah.
Just the audio.
Just turn it off. Unless you're going to show something.
Okay, hang on.
Just use an infrared keyboard.
Once you start it, you got to go through the whole thing. That's the only drawback.
No.
No, you
I'm
don't.
kidding.
There we go. You can actually, you know, it has a little scroll bar, so you can move it to any part of the meeting that you want and just watch that section.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, if you've been there, it makes it easy because you know what came before what and what was after what, but it's still easy to quickly move through, and as you see the people speaking, you can stop and then listen to that individual. Any other questions?
I'm just, again, back to indexing. Would it be helpful if we had little cards that we held up that were at item 2 or, you know, just at least the major criteria that visually people can, if they're scrolling through, if they're looking for something under item 2.0, that we actually flip up a card?
I got you. I'll come back with,
Okay.
you know, what I can figure out in terms of ways to do what you're asking.
Okay, thank
You know, it may be possible. I don't think you're going to have to hold up cards, but I think we can.
But your budget remains zero.
You know, and it may be something where we just edit the transcript before we move it up, the closed captioning. You know, maybe we can just go in and add a couple of lines that have the agenda item in the transcript. Do that.
I appreciate the comment about indexing, but I think this is primarily for the general public, not for us.
Correct.
Yeah. And I wouldn't have, since I was at the meeting, I wouldn't have any difficulty scrolling to roughly the point where I wanted to see it.
I
So-
think if we're looking back a year or so, nobody's going to have a memory as to what was discussed when. So I think, again, we're looking at historical archives here. And it could be 5 years, 10 years that we need to go back and look at a discussion.
Okay, I'm going to move the agenda with everybody's permission. Thank you, Paul.
Paul.
Very much. Approval of Board Policy 3700 with respect to copyright. This is in attachment 2.6.
Yeah, and this was reviewed, I think, with Ed Policies Committee and a study session, thank you. And just a huge amount of thought and effort. It was a couple of years in the making, and I think it's a superb policy that we have come up with.
Move approval.
Second? Second. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay, abstention. 2.7, presentation, that means the measure passes. 2.7, presentation of the initial collective bargaining contract proposal of the Teamsters Union number 186 Supervisors Bargaining Unit.
Mr. President and members of the board, if I could just remind you that several months ago, the district recognized a new exclusive bargaining representative for a group of supervisors. This process, as by law for negotiating, begins with a presentation or sunshining of the proposal of that group. You will see that this is an action item because there is several things that the board needs to do. At the next board meeting, we will have a public hearing on this. In parallel fashion, the district will be bringing to you suggestions for what the district's response should be. And I believe that Jason Walker is here. He's representing the group, and he would like to make a few comments to you.
For the professionalism, the respect and courtesy they've shown throughout the process. Given our working relationships over the time, I don't expect anything to change. And you as the board, I want to thank you for your support and your time, and we look forward to working with you on the challenges that are ahead. Thank you. Any questions for me, I guess? No? All right, thank you.
Okay. Is there action required here?
Yes.
And the action is to approve.
Officially receive the proposal, direct that it be made a matter for public record, that it can be picked up in the superintendent president's office and human resources, and give notice of the district to the public that at its next board meeting there will be a hearing held. It's right down there at the bottom of the item.
I've got it. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Luis moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, we go to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Motion is carried. Item 3.1, Human Resources, Legal Affairs.
I apologize, I have to train myself not to talk from there to get it on tape. Excuse me. I have some edits to this agenda before I submit it to you for your approval. 3.1A, we are going to pull the Director of Student Health Services position. That we have not been able to fill it. It's closed. It will be reopened soon. On the next page, Certificated Education Administrator appointment. The appointment is for 10/3/11 through 6/30/13. And the comment is inaccurate. It is not a full-time tenure-track probationary position. It's an educational administrator position, and employment is by contract. On classified appointments, 3.1J, the graphic designer position will be filled by Melanie Bellinger, Belanger. The rate will be 34/5. The start date is September 21st.
Could you?
I'm sorry, am I going too fast?
No, say the name again.
Melanie Bellinger.
Got it.
And under consultants, on my copy, it's page 7. Sometimes our page numbers don't match. But at the bottom of page 7, Patricia Duffy, Project Coordinator for HIT Consortia Grant. The date of that is incorrect. It should go through June 30th, 2012. I've never had so many corrections on an agenda before. Okay, that's it. I submit the consent agenda for your approval.
Is there a motion to approve? Maury moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Lisa seconds. Discussion on, well, I guess there isn't discussion on a consent agenda. Yes, there is.
There can be, yes.
Yeah, sure. If somebody
It's just that
wishes
you're taking it
to
as a block.
withdraw anything from the consent agenda, this would be the time.
I just have a question on page 8 there, and Jack, this is directed to you on 3.1U. We have Tom Gary getting paid for projects related to drama and music remodel, and I know we've used them in the past that were paid for by Measure V, so is there any connection with construction, or is it
Yes.
more program?
No, it's strictly, he's there because of the project got delayed. You know, Tom's there to provide internal, watch what they're doing to make sure it's, from a faculty perspective, what they wanted, what's being built and put in. And so it's strictly, it's not program development, it's strictly related to the construction project.
But is it Measure V funded, or is it?
Joe, I think it's coming out of,
listed under general fund.
It's Measure V. So what happens is, we pay for it out of general fund, and then we do a expense transfer to reimburse the fund from Measure V.
Okay.
Because we're paying Tom by, stipend, and that comes out of, ed program's budget, then we get reimbursed. And that's how we've done it in the past.
Okay, because
From
it was
Measure
just,
V.
it
But-
came up the last time
Yeah,
as a
but
point of,
instruction, and eventually it's paid for by Measure V.
because the idea was no faculty was supposed to be paid by Measure V, however, it was a special role.
Special
And there
role,
was a
but it's-
public concern about that.
Correct. And so it has nothing to do with program. It's strictly, he's there for construction. It's actually under Joe's supervision, not educational program supervision, because it's to advise, our facilities and the construction teams.
And I think actually after 5/23, Tom was no longer a member of the faculty.
Correct.
And so this is going until the end of August. Is there provision to be, I'd love to hear you say, well, that's when the building will be finished, but I don't think that's going to happen. Will his services be required beyond this?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll have to change the date through,
We actually have another agreement out of place that's period that actually we're hiring him as a consultant.
right.
We're hiring him as a consultant directly under the project.
Oh, okay, okay. All right. So we have a motion on the floor. Are further questions? Hearing none, we go to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions?
Thank you.
Measure carries. Okay. We go to, is there a 3.2? I don't think so. We go to 4.0. There's none. Hey, that was quick. 5.1, recommend approval of new or modified community services, community education courses, continuing education division.
Yeah, and Dr. Ariano is on vacation this week, so Dean Schaffner, Bonnie Schaffner's here to give some background on this item.
Okay. Yes, we have, I think, 2 citizens' remarks. Do you want to take them before?
Do you want first or after?
Well, you're at the mic, so.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll go first.
Sure.
Essentially, these fee-based courses come in 4 different categories. The first category of the fee-based are new courses, which are instructor-initiated. These courses are, we had some instructors that got very excited about offering fee-based courses and came to us with outlines, already very good outlines, already very well finished. And so we just want to get them approved, and we will, then we can have them ready when we're ready to offer them. So that's the first group. It's under new courses, instructor-initiated. The second group of courses, where it says new courses, permanently converted state-funded courses not eligible for state apportionment, these are mostly, I think practically all of these are the short hour courses. They're under 9 hours, and the state will not give us apportionment for courses under 9 hours, and so they are being converted to fee-based. That's the second group. The third group are course modifications, and they are fee-based courses in which there were changes or modifications of some sort made to them. And then the third group are the new courses, state-funded conversion options for winter and spring. And these are simply courses that we have that we want to be ready for. We don't know, we already have to begin winter programming. We don't know what cuts are going to be coming. We know what's in the budget, but we have to be prepared. So we have to have courses ready so that if we do have cuts or we do have to do some conversions, we have approved fee-based outlines. Now, it goes from winter and spring both. And for these courses, we will have both state-approved versions and fee-based versions of the courses, so that we can, maybe we go fee-based now, but sometime in the future, when the budget gets better, we could go back to offering them as state-funded courses. But they're merely options. They're merely on a contingency basis. We have to be prepared because we, as I said, we do programming very early. And we have to know that these courses, to put them into the schedule, we have to know that we have approved outlines. So that's basically it. Do you have any questions? I do apologize. I will say that not having the fee on here, and that's because we did not get the information in time to turn in the board agenda. We turn these in about 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time. So since that time, we have gotten the information, and I do have all the fees. I have a chart with all the fees on here, and I can, if you want me to, I can send them to Angie. She could send them to everyone. I have 2 versions. One version are in order of number, and the other version are in order of the way they are on the agenda here. You will also, when you notice that most of the courses have hourly range. We have a range of hours, so there's a range of fee. Like the course can be offered from 6 to 10 hours. So if that's so, then the fee, which was calculated on the average instructor pay, plus 14%, plus in some cases, additional costs, if there were coordinators or additional costs. We also have, actually with us tonight, I believe, Ken and Azam, we have all the budget spreadsheets. So if any of you really want any of this, we do have it with us. We even have copies of the outlines with us if anyone wants to ask a question or wants to take about any of the courses on here.
Yeah, Joan?
I know people are very interested in the fee schedule. Is it possible to include that in our attachments, even though we didn't get it? It could be on the website?
Yeah, well, okay, well, we can, yeah. Oh, you mean, yeah.
You know, I think.
Because from now on, we will have the fee on here.
Right.
We just didn't have it.
Just for the supplemental, and I don't know what, again,
I
the
guess
protocol.
The question is, you know, we're presenting this information now, and you know, I haven't seen it myself. You know, we've talked about it, but I haven't seen it. So the question is, at what point, how soon can the board get a copy? But you're saying
Well,
one
since
for
there were
you.
attachments
Yeah.
for the
So this really, you're saying
packet.
should be regarded as part of the attachment, and then, you know, can we do that? Since it, Sue?
I suggest that you find a way of simply disseminating this information on the website. I see it as problematic that it's treated as an attachment and we don't have.
Right.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
So I will send it to Angie?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that then.
And Angie will distribute it right away.
I think Marcia was next, then Lisa?
Okay.
I was wondering for the new courses, state-funded conversion options, what was the criteria that you used for picking these classes? Obviously, work went into the outlines.
Yes, the criteria, I think it was discussed at the study session, was from shared governance. You know, we had discussions with our consultation team, with CEIA, and the criteria was that we wanted to preserve beginning classes as state funded. So intermediate classes and advanced classes were selected. And then the short hour classes were another selection. And what was the third one? Ken? Oh, yeah, workshops are open, like it's something that's really, you can tell by reading the description or the title that it is just really a workshop or a studio class. Now, there are a couple on here you will notice that are beginning classes, and the reason for that is that in some disciplines, when we talked to the instructors, they said they did not want to be have beginning state-funded and advanced fee. They want all one or all the other. So they said, if you're going to convert or have at least have a possible conversion of any of our classes to fee-based, we want them all to be converted. So that's why you will see there are some on here that are beginning. I believe that was the figure drawing, jewelry, yeah. They wanted them all converted.
It seems to me that we heard a lot of comments at the study session when we were talking about those criteria from the people who participated in the task force and from faculty who made their recommendations, which were different from the criteria that you gave to us. So my concern is that these courses do not reflect shared governance conclusions about what those criteria should be, and that we were moving in the direction of returning to the shared governance process to discuss the criteria further. For example, the Ventura County Jail came up number one, as I recall, for both the task force and the faculty, and I don't see any of those classes on this list.
That's because the Ventura County Jail is based on, the basis for it was it's out of the district, and that my understanding is that that needs to be a board policy. Once the board policy is established that we will not offer courses out of district, then we can do that. Even if we move ahead with it, it's going to take time because it's be devastating to them to suddenly remove all the classes from there. They have, it's mandated that they offer classes to the inmates. We have very high success rate in that area. And I believe Dr. Ariano is preparing a report on the inmate classes, so to give you a better view of what we're doing there, what the success rate is, what classes that we offer there. And so all of that is in the offing. That's why these are just options. If that option came available and a decision was made, no out of state, then that would make a difference in what classes we cut.
Bonnie, if I may, it's not a board policy, it's board priorities. It's saying how important is those classes in Ventura, which the Ventura district could serve, vis-a-vis what we're doing here. But that's really a board, and with input from groups. That's basically saying it's a priority. But it's not a policy.
Well, my understanding was that it was. It doesn't matter to me. All I know is that we need to hold off on that. And again, that's why these are options. Because let's say that happened. Let's say that, the decision was made. And again, I thought the understanding was to at least listen to a report of what we're offering there. At least find out what's going on before you make a decision. If that decision were made, then we would not have to convert all of these. They're just here to be ready.
Well, that's my concern. I mean, these obviously have had considerable work done already to prepare the outlines and go through the approval process. That in and of itself is a selection process with criteria applied. I'm more comfortable with going back to the shared governance process, have the faculty input, have the input from the task force, come to a conclusion on criteria before we decide to approve anything in the way of fee classes. And I would just ask, could we postpone this perhaps for another month or so to work through that process?
Well, then again, you're preventing us from being able to put any of them in the winter schedule, which we're starting already. That's why we're in a rush. That's why we did so many at one time. Not only that, but it was through the process. The criteria that we used were criteria that the groups came up with. The only one that they made prominent was the Ventura Jail, and I just explained that one. But all the other work criteria, they said they thought workshop classes, studio classes, and they wanted to protect beginning classes. And so that's what we did.
Well, my impression is that there was considerable disagreement with that point, and I'm just trying to get to a place where we have a more generally accepted group of criteria. So given that, I mean, what it sounds to me like is these are not options. You want to go about selecting right now from this list. And I'm kind of back in the, when did we decide what the criteria are? Because I didn't hear that we had reached that stage.
The way I understand it is, what we're asking for now is approval of these courses, and they're going to be developing, two options for each course, and if there's more consultation that needs to take place, there's time for that, but at least the courses are in place, so that when the consultation is completed or re-verified, then they can move because they don't have time. The analogy is on the credit side. Why we're going through the process that Dean discussed in looking at what are the priorities. We recognize we're not going to have time to complete that process in time for spring schedule development. So what we're doing there is we're using our existing processes because we don't have the luxury of time for that. But going forward, then it's going to have the prioritization and the input through shared participatory governance process. So I think Bonnie said today just now was that we're going with both options, at least so once that's confirmed, they know which way to go, but they just need the course of record outline, whatever way it goes, approved. So you're approving the course of record outline. You're not approving today which one goes fee-based and which it isn't.
The actual plan is that we will go back to consultation council and CEIA before making decisions about specific courses.
Okay, now would that decision be from this list only?
Basically, probably from the list.
See, that's my concern right there.
Well-
This list is a pre-selected list. Say we have 100 classes, you have reached a conclusion that we will pick from 50 of them. And I'm trying to get back on which 50 are we picking from in that process because of our obligation to give faculty and students their input, all reasonable consideration under board policy.
The criteria that we got from them was protect beginning courses, focus on workshop courses, which is what we did, and short hour courses, which is what we did. Now, if they want to change, go back and say, no, we changed our mind, then we can go back and discuss. But that's the basis upon which the decision was made for these courses. And this is kind of, it's a list of a good many courses. And it's like, well, where else do you want to go? And again, it's approved just on a contingency basis. We might end up, we don't have to do any of them.
So to return to the Ventura County Jail issue, when is it that we would see that memo and that discussion so that that would have time to have input, since that was number one on the list for their group?
Oh, you mean the presentation to the board from
Yes.
Dr. Ariana?
Yes.
I believe she was planning to do that actually last month, and it was postponed, and I think she's planning on the upcoming study session. But she's working on it. She's been collecting all kinds of data, so that before you make a decision, you at least know what the data is and what the facts are.
Yeah, when I met with Dr. Ariana before, I discussed this, because I wanted to have an education.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
raised the same question, saying, where's our priority in terms of our community, since Ventura District would have been doing this. It's not like, this is not one of those regional programs that we're doing for the state. It's, what Ventura said. At the time, it was a great opportunity. Ventura didn't want it. We stepped in and we have done terrific things, and it's been a good win-win relationship. And at that point, Dr. Yana, gave me, some pretty sound reasons, but she was putting it in writing. So what we need to look at, we have, where that fits into the study session agenda, because the agenda's getting long now. But if we're also discussing completing the review of the continuing education report that Dr. Ariana started, it seems to me that this would be a natural part of that. It's not a separate report, it's part of, that we'll just add.
Well,
To have the overall discussion, review of, what she wrote, last spring. But
yeah,
we
my
just-
concern is that in and of itself is probably a whole study session, just going over that report. So what I'm trying to do is get a level playing field of the courses that are options, and to entertain this question that was at the top of the list for both the task force and for the faculty input, and say, is this among our options or is it not, before you make that decision. That's where I'm trying to
We
go.
will. Again, these are just, we have to work ahead of time, and sometimes if you're not involved in this, you don't understand that, how far ahead we have to do things. And we have to be prepared, because it takes time to put things through the approval process. Fee-based aren't as bad as state-funded, which take much more time. But, so we have to be ready, and so we're ready. Now, we might add, we will have more, actually. We may have more in the next board meeting. We will have some more. This is not all of them.
Right, so this is not, what she's saying, Bonnie's saying, is that this is not the exclusive list. There's some flexibility, but at least this gives them a running start, because the clock ticks, it goes like that, and we don't have luxury time. But we do, in a sense of saying this is not, there's flexibility in terms of what we bring back to the board for approval in timeline, but they need to, this is a good start, because they need to, there's a lot of work just getting this in.
Yeah, there is, yeah.
Luis has been very patient. He's
Well, I just wanted to say that, we can't interrupt a process that has to take place and take its natural course as it has for years. Now, the discussion on task force recommendations and/or the Ventura jail, that has to be discussed by this board prior to any change being made. So, and that discussion has not taken place.
Well, that's
So
what
we're
I'm
not going to
asking.
hold,
I'm
we're not
asking-
going to hold back this process simply because a discussion hasn't taken place. We have to move forward, and at the proper time, we will discuss those issues that you're addressing.
Well, that's my question. I mean, we have a recommendation from faculty and from students and from the task force that said this is #1 priority, Ventura County Jail. We will convert those. And we're not hearing the response of administration. Administration can put forward those classes just as easily as any other class and say, this is a proposed class that will be converted. There's no difference there, except that we discussed it and Dr. Ariano wanted to put forth the memo. So I'm saying, when do we get the memo?
Well,
So it's part of the.
We probably will get the memo until, when we give her an opportunity to do her job.
And
So
that's
far,
right.
and to present to us. That has
this
not
is-
been afforded her.
All this is
So
time-consuming.
all of the things that we have been going through recently has postponed that from happening. So
And
it'll
not-
happen as we go forward.
Not only that, but there's a good chance with the Ventura Jail, we simply may cancel them. I mean, it doesn't mean that we're necessarily going to convert those courses.
Those courses aren't really convertible. They're either
Yeah.
you offer them or you don't.
You don't, that's right.
And
So it's just a
not
matter
really
of.
part of this. This is,
Right.
Well, I look forward to that conversation, but that's not the conversation we're having today.
Right.
Lisa?
Yeah, just real briefly, I was at the same study session, and there were numerous members of the faculty and community members who did not feel that their voices were heard in the shared governance. I appreciate the fact, Dr. Friedlander, that you're going to be looking at that whole thing, and I just wanted to validate the people that did speak up and wrote emails in that feeling that they weren't part of the shared governance. And I understand right now you need to move forward on these, and so I have no problem with that. Thank you for your work on these.
Okay. Further comment? Are we ready to vote or approve? Oh, I'm sorry. First on public comment, Kathy McCammon. Unless you two want to switch places. Well, one of you.
Okay, the item that is before you is a perfect example of why I was saying there was an urgency to look at continuing education. I want you to take a step backwards. This committee that was complaining that they weren't being paid attention to was not an open committee. ACES had been asked to have input on this issue, and we were not invited to this committee. We ended up having a member there who had suggested someone else in the faculty, and so she got a copy, but unfortunately, she made it just by chance because she went to the office and found out it really wasn't at the Schott Center, it was at the Wake Center. But the point I'm trying to make is that the committee was a pre-selected committee that was not open to everyone, to the students who might have been interested in participating. And now what we have is a list that is a pre-selected list, because there are a lot more classes in here than are on here. And this is a significant transition for the program, so I really would urge you to step back, and even if it causes things to be somewhat out of kilter, I think this is the very important thing I was talking about. We can't have happen if we're going to restore trust and everybody can work together in a peaceful fashion. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Cornelia?
Honorable members of the Board of Trustees, President Dr. Haslund, Dr. Friedlander. In the scope of today's agenda topic regarding fee-based classes at the Continuing Ed Department, I wanted to address a rather technical issue, and that is the calculation of the course fees. Well, yes, it is technical, yes, it is details, and no, I do not have a fun Latin quote from some ancient Roman to brighten it up. But here is my take on this. We are asking students to pay fees for courses. We should have our ducks in a row. Means we need to make sure that our calculations are right. Continuing ed students and instructors are having concerns about the current fee calculations. So I am trying to have us take a second look at those. Let me briefly recollect what was discussed at the June 23rd study session. The guideline the administration was given by you for calculating the course fees was to charge the direct cost and add a 14% markup to cover certain indirect cost. In Vice President Dr. Arellano's June 23rd handout, the direct cost included instructors' compensation and benefits, facility rentals, guest lecturers, and other genuinely direct cost. It also included, labeled as direct cost, a number of shared costs, which are, the name says it, not truly direct, but shared or common cost, which have to be allocated to the cost objects in question, that means to the individual class sections. So the first question is it okay to treat shared cost as direct cost? The answer is, it depends. If, in fact, those shared costs can be allocated relatively easily and with a high degree of accuracy, yes, government regulations do allow this option. Now let us look at the indirect cost. At the June 23rd study session, it was explained that this 14% markup was meant mainly to cover the cost of the continuing ed directors. This said, please allow me to point out where things seem to me and others to be a bit off track. Some course areas, specifically ceramics, glass arts, jewelry, sewing, and cooking, have adjunct instructors as instructional coordinators. Other areas do not have those. In these other areas, such coordinating tasks are done by the directors. For those course areas which have coordinators, Dr. Arellano's calculation includes an allocated portion of their stipends as direct cost of fee-based class sections. As I laid out before, this, in fact, could be an option. However, if we do so, we need to pay close attention to what the true costs of those coordinators are, which are charged to the students. Well, here's the deal. The coordinators do tasks which otherwise would be done by the directors. The coordinators make $14.50 per hour. In those other areas where this work is done by the directors, it probably costs the college about 3 or 4 times as much. That means that, in fact, there is a substantial savings created by these coordinators. Are those savings considered anywhere in the fee calculations? No. Do those courses, which have coordinators and therefore create savings in director time, get charged with the same indirect cost markup as courses which do not have coordinators? Yes. So, for me and others, that looks like double dipping, right? Possibly, it might be advisable not to add coordinator stipends into direct cost, but rather treat them as indirect cost. Or, if we choose to treat coordinator stipends as a direct cost, then we need to calculate their true net cost, and that includes considering the savings incurred for director time. And let's be realistic. In all probability, we would actually come up here with a negative amount because the savings in director time salaries will significantly exceed those very modest stipends paid to our instructors for taking over coordinator tasks. Again, there are concerns and questions out there. Let us get our ducks in a row. Let's make sure that our calculations are right. So I was hoping that our continuing ed administrators could take a second look at their fee calculation, please. Thank you very much.
Okay. Do you want to respond to any of that, or?
Well, we're only asking for approval of the courses, not the fees. Not only that, but we just did the calculations the last 2 days.
Mhm.
So I don't know where all this information is coming from. Every course outline that we have with us tonight has a spreadsheet on the back with the fee calculations. And the 14% is not, that is all the indirect costs.
But I think what's on the agenda is the course of record outlines. It's not, you're not discussing the fees because it's not what's on the agenda.
Okay.
So we just need to move forward and have those discussions, but that's not really part of what's being asked today.
All right.
Are you looking for a motion?
I am.
I'll move approval.
Okay. Motion is made to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Discussion of the motion? Hearing none, we go to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Okay. Abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay. So the vote is recorded 5-1-1. Business
No, it
services?
wouldn't be, there are not 7 of us.
An abstention.
Abstention.
Got it.
I forgot you, sorry. I was counting wrong.
Does our student trustee abstain?
Yes.
Sue?
He did.
Be an advisory vote.
Yeah.
We'd like to hear from him, though.
Okay. So we are at item 6.1, business consent items.
I have one addition or correction actually to make on here in dot 1I. There is a new director to be determined under that, the approval of monthly mileage stipends, and the name of that new director is Renata Funke. Renata, and last name Funke. In the interest of time, I'll simply ask, are there any questions on the consent agenda?
Oh, I want you to go over one of those pages of the contract. I move approval of the consent items.
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, good. Maury just jumped in and said second. Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Okay, unanimously carried.
Okay, we can go then on to the adoption of resolution number 5 and number 6. These can be taken together. They're authorizing the routine internal budget transfers and the budget revisions due to receipt of unbudgeted revenue, items 6.2A and B.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion is made.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. We move to a roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Trustee Haslam.
Aye.
Trustee Jerkowitz.
Aye.
Trustee Livingston.
Aye.
Trustee Macker.
Aye.
Trustee Villegas.
Aye.
Item 6.2C is to amend the Child Development Programs contract. This is an increase to the original agreement and is Amendment 1, Resolution Number 7.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. And 7 and 8 can't be taken together or should not be?
If everyone agrees to vote, that's the same on both of them.
Okay, there you go. Good point.
I think we should take them separately, just because they stand separate. They're for separate
Okay,
fiscal years.
move for Resolution 7.
Second?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Discussion? Okay. We'll take a vote. Roll call.
Trustee Evans.
Aye.
Trustee Croninger.
Aye.
Trustee Haslam.
Aye.
Trustee Jerkowitz.
Aye.
Trustee Livingston.
Aye.
Trustee Macker.
Aye.
Trustee Villegas.
Aye.
Item 6.2D is retroactive approval of Amendment 2 to the 2010-11 Child Development Programs contract. This is just to decrease it to the actual billable amount through June 30th, 2011.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Maury moves, and Joan seconds. Discussion? Hearing none, we go to a vote.
Trustee Evans.
Aye.
Trustee Croninger.
Aye.
Trustee Haslam.
Aye.
Trustee Jerkowitz.
Aye.
Trustee Livingston.
Aye.
Trustee Macker.
Aye.
Trustee Villegas.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. We are at that point where we are ready to move into a closed session, but it seems to me that right, we'll take a break. Right. First, we need to adjourn this one, right?
Now move into closed session. Concurrent special meeting?
Where's that on the agenda? Is there a new
so
agenda?
We need a motion. Yeah. The reason for the bit of confusion is that Marty Bloom is in North Carolina ducking a hurricane, and she'd like to be with us during the closed session. So,
Convene it and then have public comment on this item before you go into.
okay. So,
And all votes taken after you have convened have to be by roll call because you have somebody.
got it. So we need a motion now to convene the closed session.
Now, do we need to call Trustee Blum now or not? And you're calling her?
You're calling her, or you want to call her here on the phone?
No, call her on that
Okay.
phone.
You have the end, you have the number?
I just checked with her, she is there.
Okay.
Aren't we going to be in the other
So
room?
the question is, do we need a motion to convene a special session?
What special session are
Not
you
on
talking
the
about, Sue?
agenda.
What? Oh, then, okay.
Where is it on the agenda?
It's a separate agenda.
It's separate, it's separate.
It's on the door over there.
Yeah. Okay.
Not that I
So
got it.
we convene this special session of,
You know what? You can, go ahead, adjourn your regular meeting.
Oh,
yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I called her.
Well, what about the closed session?
It's a special meeting. What we're doing.
Okay, back
is-
to, why was a special
busy?
session called?
Well, because Marty,
I need to wait till 5, maybe I should.
please, go ahead.
Why couldn't Marty join a regular meeting?
She's on the East Coast and she requested to join the closed session.
Because there wasn't 72 hours.
I didn't do the.
So
I didn't think I had to.
we have adjourned this meeting. We
We
will
haven't yet.
open.
We have to vote to adjourn. So we need to adjourn it?
Okay.
I move to adjourn.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, and before you run away, we'll open the other meeting. But all in favor of adjourning the meeting we just finished?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Okay, this is
You don't
good
need to
news.
go to closed session.
Now we
Leave.
convene
But, as I said, if
Um,
you want to take back.
the special meeting
is the search for the.
And we are open to,
Very interesting
we
process.
have to, we have a public hearing section. Anybody want to talk to this issue?
Is, I think,
Okay?
What
politically.
is the,
To be able to hear public comment. Well,
what is the issue?
I was just
don't know
asking
what the
if
issue-
there were
Oh,
any
yeah, that's-
members of the public who wanted to address us. I hear none, and maybe this.
We have to make sure that people aren't lined up outside. Marty?
yes, hi.
Hi, so we're now accepting public comment, we're convening the closed session. And is there anybody who wants to speak? Sue? Okay, we need a roll call. Who's present for this meeting? So Angie?
Trustee Blue?
Aye.
Trustee Croninger?
Aye.
Trustee Haslam?
Aye?
Trustee Jerkowitz?
Aye.
Trustee Livingston?
Aye.
Trustee Macker?
Aye.
Trustee Villegas?
Aye.
Okay. Now, it seems to me that we go into closed session. Motion to, do we need a motion to go into closed session?
Well, I should.
Yes.
I would think so.
Well, my understanding is if it's agendized, we don't need a motion. So we'll go with that. And so we are going to go into closed session, and we will reconvene here in hopefully not the distant future.
Marty?
No reportable action. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Non-debatable. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good night, all.